The scalpel slipped through skin like it was made of air. No tremor, no hesitation, just precision so surgical it could have been mistaken for indifference, except for the fact that a man's heart had stopped beating 30 seconds ago, and the woman holding the blade hadn't even blinked. "Time of death, 1447, the chief surgeon barked, his voice cracking with exhaustion. No. Dr. Harper Cole didn't look up. Her fingers moved faster. The monitors flatlined. The room went silent. And while every surgeon in St. Sebastian's Memorial had already given up, Harper's hand disappeared into the chest cavity and squeezed. Once. Twice. The heart kicked. The monitors screamed back to life. And the man who was supposed to be dead gasped. No one thanked her. No one even looked at her. They just stared at the quiet woman they'd been calling the mistake for 3 months, like she'd done something impossible. She had, but at St. Sebastian's being right was the fastest way to make enemies. But if you want to see how far a story about silence, survival, and a reckoning no one saw coming can go, stay until the end. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from. I want to know just how far this one travels. Harper Cole learned early that the loudest voices in a room were rarely the smartest. They were just the most convinced of their own importance. And at St. Sebastian's Memorial Hospital in Ashford Heights, importance was currency, the kind you earned through volume, reputation, and a willingness to humiliate anyone who didn't fit the mold. She didn't fit, not even close. She was 32, pale in a way that suggested too many nights under fluorescent lights, and small enough that residents joked she could disappear behind a crash cart. Her hair was pulled back in a bun so tight it looked like it hurt. It probably did. She never complained. She didn't speak unless spoken to, and even then, her answers were clipped. Efficient, forgettable, the kind of person you'd pass in a hallway and not remember 5 minutes later. That was the plan. It had been working for 12 weeks, until it didn't. Basit. The trouble started on a Tuesday. Harper was in the trauma bay, stitching a laceration on a construction worker who'd caught a nail gun to the forearm. Routine, quiet, the kind of shift she preferred, the kind where no one noticed her. "Hey, Cole." She didn't look up, didn't need to. She knew the voice. Dr. Marcus Pierce, chief of surgery, 6'3", silver-haired, with the kind of jaw that looked carved out of marble and a reputation that could end careers with a single phone call. He'd been at St. Sebastian's for 15 years. He owned the place in every way that mattered, and he hated her. "You planning to finish that stitch job sometime this century?" Pierce leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. His tone was casual, mocking, the kind of voice you'd use on a dog that pissed on the carpet. Harper's needle didn't slow. "Almost done. Almost not good enough in my ER." "It's not your ER," she said quietly. "It's the hospital's." The room went silent. One of the nurses, an older woman named Delilah, sucked in a breath and turned away, pretending to reorganize a tray. The construction worker on the table glanced between them like he'd just walked into a knife fight. Pierce's smile didn't reach his eyes. "You got a mouth on you, Cole. Funny, considering you got hired because someone upstairs felt sorry for you." Harper tied off the stitch, snipped the thread, helped the worker sit up. "You're good to go. Keep it dry. Follow up in a week." The man nodded, grabbed his shirt, and bolted. Smart. Harper stripped off her gloves and tossed them in the bin. When she turned, Pierce was still there, closer now. "You know what your problem is?" he said. "I'm sure you'll tell me. You think you're special. You think because you got a medical degree and a sob story, you can walk in here and play trauma surgeon." He leaned in close enough that she could smell the coffee on his breath. "But you're not. You're a liability. A warm body the board hired to fill a diversity quota. And the second you screw up, and you will, I'm the one cleaning up the mess." Harper met his eyes. Hers were gray, flat, empty. "Noted." She walked past him. Behind her, Pierce muttered something under his breath. Delilah caught it. "She's not going to last." Delilah didn't respond, but she glanced at Harper's back as she disappeared down the hall, and for just a second, she wondered if Pierce had it backwards. The whispers started an hour later. Harper was in the break room, eating a sandwich that tasted like cardboard and exhaustion, when 2 residents walked in. They didn't see her at first, She was tucked into the corner by the vending machine, half hidden behind a stack of outdated medical journals. Did you hear Pierce went off on Cole again? Third time this week. Guy's relentless. Can you blame him? She's dead weight. I heard she botched a central line last month. That was Richmond. She wasn't even on shift. Oh, well, still. She's weird, doesn't talk, doesn't go to the mixers, just exists. Maybe she's just shy. Or maybe she's hiding something. Harper set the sandwich down. She wasn't hungry anymore. The two residents grabbed their coffee and left, still talking. Harper sat in the silence they left behind, staring at the half-eaten sandwich like it held answers to questions she wasn't asking. Outside the window, rain streaked down the glass in uneven lines, the kind of rain that didn't know if it wanted to commit or just linger. She preferred the lingering. It was predictable. Harper finished the sandwich anyway. Waste was a sin she'd been taught to avoid, and stood. Her shift didn't end for another 6 hours. There were charts to update, labs to review, patients who needed someone to care, even if they didn't know her name. She walked back into the ER and ran straight into Dr. Evelyn Marks. Literally. The collision sent a stack of files tumbling from Marks's arms, papers scattering across the linoleum like oversized confetti. Harper dropped to her knees immediately, gathering sheets, stacking them in order by date without even thinking. Sorry, Harper said. It's fine. Marks crouched beside her, collecting the rest. She was younger than Harper by maybe 2 years, with dark skin, sharp cheekbones, and the kind of confidence that came from never being told she didn't belong. You're Cole, right? Harper nodded. Evelyn Marks, cardiothoracic. I've seen you around. Yeah. Marks smiled. It looked genuine. That made it worse. You don't say much, do you? Not usually. Pierce giving you hell? Harper handed her the last of the files. He gives everyone hell. True, but he seems to have a special reservation for you. Marks stood, brushing off her scrubs. For what it's worth, I don't think you're dead weight. Harper stood too. You don't know me. I know you saved a guy's life last week with a needle decompression Pierce wouldn't have thought of in time. That counts for something. Harper didn't respond. She just nodded once and walked away. Behind her, Marks watched her go, frowning. Yeah, Marks muttered to herself, definitely hiding something. By evening, the ER was a war zone. A 5-car pileup on the interstate had flooded the trauma bays with patients. Harper was elbow-deep in blood, stabilizing a woman with a collapsed lung when the doors burst open. We got military inbound, someone shouted. Harper's hands froze. Just for a second, then she was moving again. The woman on the table was stable. Harper handed her off to a resident and stepped back, wiping her hands on a towel. Around her, the ER descended into controlled chaos. Nurses prepped gurneys, techs checked monitors. Pierce was shouting orders, his voice cutting through the noise like a saw. Clear Bay 3! I want X-ray standing by! Someone get me an airway kit! Harper moved to the corner. Out of the way. She was good at that. The first stretcher came through the doors at a dead sprint. The soldier on it wasn't moving. Male, mid-30s, blunt force trauma to the chest, BP dropping, pulse thready. Get him to Bay 1. Pierce was already gloved, already moving. He looked like a man in his element, confident, commanding. Harper watched from the doorway. Something was wrong. She could see it in the way the soldier's chest moved, or didn't. The shallow, uneven breaths, the bluish tint creeping into his lips. He's not getting air, she said. No one heard her. Pierce was barking orders, checking vitals, demanding labs. The nurses were moving fast, attaching monitors, starting IVs. The room was a blur of motion and sound, and the soldier was dying. Harper stepped forward. He's not getting air. This time Pierce heard her. He shot her a look that could have stripped paint. What did I say about staying out of the way? His trachea's deviated. Look at his neck. I don't need a play-by-play from the peanut gallery, Cole. I need you to shut up and let me work. Harper's jaw tightened, but she didn't move. The monitor beeped. Once, twice, then it screamed. He's crashing, someone yelled. Pierce swore. Bag him. Get me an airway. It's not his airway, Harper said. Her voice was louder now, sharper. It's a tension pneumothorax. His lungs collapsed. If you don't decompress it now, he's dead in 60 seconds. Pierce spun on her. You want to tell me how to do my job? I want you to save his life. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then Harper moved. She grabbed a needle from the crash cart, thick, long, brutal-looking, and stepped to the soldier's side. Pierce's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. "Don't you dare! Let go! You're not authorized. Let go!" Their eyes locked, and Pierce saw something in her face that made him hesitate. Just long enough. Harper ripped her wrist free, positioned the needle over the soldier's second intercostal space, and drove it in. There was a hiss, sharp, sudden, like air escaping a tire. The soldier's chest rose, the monitor steadied, and 50 seconds later he was breathing on his own. The room went silent. Pierce stared at her. His face was red. His fists were clenched. "Get out." Harper blinked. "What?" "You just performed an unauthorized procedure in my ER. You're suspended, effective immediately." He turned to Delilah. "Escort her out, now." Delilah hesitated. "Dr. Pierce, she just... now." Harper didn't argue. She stripped off her gloves, dropped them in the bin, and walked out. Behind her, the soldier's monitor beeped steadily. Alive. She made it to the locker room before the shaking started. Harper sat on the bench, hands gripping her knees, breathing slow and controlled. The kind of breathing they taught you in basic training. The kind that kept you from falling apart when everything around you already had. The door opened. Delilah stepped in. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there, arms crossed, looking at Harper like she was trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. "You didn't have to do that," Delilah said finally. "Yeah, I did." "Pierce is going to bury you." Harper looked up. "He can try." Delilah snorted. It wasn't quite a laugh. "You're either brave or stupid. I haven't decided which." "Can it be both?" That got a smile. Small, fleeting, but real. "For what it's worth," Delilah said, "you did the right thing. That kid would have died." Harper nodded. She didn't need validation, but it helped anyway. Delilah left. Harper sat alone in the locker room, listening to the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. She'd been suspended before, fired twice. It never got easier, but it never stopped her either. She stood, grabbed her jacket, and headed for the parking lot. She was halfway there when the hospital's PA system crackled to life. Code Silver. Helipad. Priority Alpha. Repeat. Code Silver. Helipad. Priority Alpha. Harper stopped. Code Silver. Military emergency. Priority Alpha. VIP casualty. She looked toward the exit, then toward the stairwell that led to the roof. Every logical part of her brain screamed to leave. Walk away. Let Pierce handle it. She was suspended. It wasn't her problem. But Harper Cole had never been good at walking away. She ran. Yut. The helipad was chaos. 2 Blackhawks sat on the pad, rotors still spinning, the downdraft kicking up dust and debris. Soldiers in tactical gear were unloading stretchers, shouting orders, moving with the kind of precision that only came from training under fire. And in the middle of it all, Pierce stood frozen. Harper pushed through the crowd. On the stretcher in front of Pierce was a man in his 50s, gray-haired, blood-soaked, unconscious. His uniform was shredded. His chest was a mess of bandages and improvised clamps, the kind of patchwork you did when you were trying to keep someone alive long enough to get them somewhere that mattered. "What's the situation?" Pierce's voice was tight, uncertain. "Aortic rupture. Shrapnel embedded near the descending thoracic. He's bleeding internally. We need a surgeon. Now." Pierce opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Harper could see it in his face, the calculation, the fear. This wasn't a textbook case. This was a nightmare wrapped in uniform, and one wrong move would end a career or a life. Harper stepped forward. "Let me see him." Every head turned. One of the soldiers, a captain, judging by the insignia on his collar, frowned. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who can help." "This is a classified patient. Unless you've got clearance." "She doesn't," Pierce snapped. He looked at Harper like she'd just spit in his face. "And she's suspended. Security, get her out of here." Harper ignored him. She moved to the stretcher, her eyes scanning the man's body. The bandages, the clamps, the way his breathing hitched every third breath like his lungs were fighting a war they were losing. And then she saw it. A scar, old, faded, running along the left side of his rib cage, disappearing beneath the field dressings. Her hand moved without thinking. She touched the scar. The world stopped. "I know this wound," she said quietly. The captain stared at her. "What?" "This wound. I know it, because I closed it 3 years ago, in Kandahar. FOB Sentinel. July 14th, 0300 hours. Mortar strike. Shrapnel from a 120mm round. I removed 6 pieces. Left one because it was too close to the aorta." She looked up at the captain. "Check the imaging. You'll see it. Lower left quadrant. Embedded in the muscle wall." The silence that followed was suffocating. Pierce laughed. It was sharp, cruel, desperate. "You're delusional. Security." "Check his tags," Harper said. Her voice was calm, steady, the kind of calm that came from being absolutely certain. The captain hesitated. Then he pulled the dog tags from beneath the man's collar. He went pale. "What's his name?" Harper asked. The captain didn't answer. "His name," she repeated. General David Hargrave, Commander, Joint Special Operations Task Force." Harper nodded, like she'd just confirmed the weather. "Then you know who I am." The captain's jaw dropped. He looked at her like he was seeing a ghost. "Your ghost." Pierce's face drained of color. "What?" "Captain Gabriel Ghost Hartley," the soldier said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Trauma surgeon, Special Forces Medical Group. 3 tours, 14 combat surgeries, 7 of them on personnel no one thought would survive." He looked at Harper. "You're supposed to be dead." "I got better," Harper said. The monitor on the stretcher started screaming. Harper didn't wait for permission. She climbed onto the stretcher, straddling the general's chest, her hands already moving. She ripped open his uniform, exposing the field dressings beneath. "Get me an OR, now!" "You can't," Pierce started. "Shut up," the captain said. His voice was ice. He turned to Harper. "What do you need?" "A miracle," Harper said. "And about 6 units of O negative. Move." The soldiers moved. Pierce didn't. Harper glanced at him. "You coming, or you going to stand there looking stupid?" Pierce's mouth opened, closed. Then he followed. The operating room was prepped in 4 minutes flat. Harper scrubbed in while the nurses got the general on the table. He was barely holding on. Blood pressure dropping, pulse erratic. Every second counted. Pierce stood on the opposite side of the table, gloved and gowned, looking like a man who just walked into the wrong room and couldn't find the exit. "You don't have to be here," Harper said, not looking at him. "This is my hospital." "Then act like it." She made the first incision. Blood welled up immediately, dark and thick. Harper's hands moved with a speed that didn't match her size. Precise, economical, no wasted motion. "Suction," a nurse complied. "Clamp." Another hand delivered it. Harper worked in silence, her eyes locked on the mess of tissue and shrapnel inside the general's chest. The aorta was a minefield. One wrong move and he'd bleed out in seconds. "Talk to me, Cole," Pierce said. His voice was strained. "What are you seeing?" "Exactly what I said I'd see. Shrapnel, embedded in the aortic wall. It's been there for 3 years, and it's shifted. Probably from the blast that brought him in." She paused, adjusting her angle. "It's pressed against the vessel. If I pull it out wrong, the aorta ruptures and he's gone. Can you stabilize it?" "I can try." "That's not good enough." Harper looked up, met his eyes over her mask. "It's all we've got." For the next 20 minutes, the only sounds in the OR were the beeping of monitors and the quiet instructions Harper gave to the nurses. Pierce assisted, his hands steady despite the fear in his eyes. He was a good surgeon. Harper could see that. But this was beyond good. This required perfect. "I'm going in," Harper said. "Wait." But she was already moving. Her fingers slipped into the wound, navigating around the shrapnel with a touch so delicate it looked like she was defusing a bomb. Which, in a way, she was. "Got it," she whispered. And then everything went wrong. The shrapnel shifted. The aorta tore. Blood exploded from the wound, flooding the field, turning everything red. "Pressure!" Harper shouted. Pierce clamped down, but it wasn't enough. The blood kept coming. "He's crashing!" one of the nurses yelled. The monitor flatlined. "Call it," Pierce said. His voice was hollow, defeated. He's gone. Harper didn't stop. Her hands were inside the general's chest now, fingers pressed against the torn vessel, holding it together through sheer force of will. Get me a vascular clamp, now. Cole, he's flatlined. I said, now. A nurse slapped the clamp into her hand. Harper placed it with a precision that shouldn't have been possible given the amount of blood obscuring her view. The bleeding slowed, stopped. Paddles, she said. Harper, paddles. They charged. Harper pulled her hands back. The nurse pressed the paddles to the general's chest. Clear. The shock hit. The body convulsed. The monitor stayed flat. Again. Clear. Another shock. Nothing. Again. Cole, it's over. Again. The third shock hit like a lightning strike, and the monitor beeped, once, twice, then steady. The room exhaled as one. Harper looked down at her hands. They were covered in blood, shaking now, just a little. Suture, she said quietly. Pierce handed it to her, and together they closed. Three hours later, Harper stood in the scrub room, washing blood from her hands. The water ran red, then pink, then clear. She watched it swirl down the drain like it was taking something with it. The door opened behind her. She didn't turn. You saved his life. It was Pierce. His voice was different now, smaller, like someone had let the air out. Harper dried her hands. We saved his life. Don't do that. Don't diminish what you just did. Pierce stepped beside her, leaning against the sink. He looked exhausted, old. I froze out there, on the helipad. I saw that wound, and I didn't know what to do. Harper finally looked at him. You did fine in the OR. Because you told me what to do. Every step. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I've been chief of surgery here for 15 years, and tonight I was useless. You weren't useless, you were human. Pierce shook his head. Why didn't you tell anyone about your background, about who you were? Harper grabbed her jacket from the hook. Because that's not who I am anymore. Bullshit. You just performed battlefield surgery in a civilian hospital. You didn't even hesitate. I hesitated, Harper said quietly. I just didn't let it stop me. She walked toward the door. Cole. She paused. I'm sorry for how I treated you, for everything. Harper nodded once. Then she left. Behind her, Pierce stood alone in the scrub room, staring at his own reflection in the mirror like he didn't recognize the man looking back. Harper made it to the parking lot before the adrenaline wore off. She leaned against her car, a beat-up Honda that had seen better decades, and let her head fall back against the roof. The rain had stopped. The sky was clearing. Stars were starting to peek through the clouds. She closed her eyes and heard footsteps. Harper's hand moved to her pocket. Old habits. Easy, Ghost. She opened her eyes. The captain from the helipad stood a few feet away, hands visible, posture non-threatening. He looked tired, grateful, wary. Captain, Harper said, just Mason. We're off duty. He stepped closer. The general's stable. Critical, but stable. They're saying he'll make it. Good. Thanks to you. Harper didn't respond. Mason studied her for a long moment. You disappeared 3 years ago. One day you were Ghost, the best trauma surgeon in the unit. The next, you were gone. No forwarding address. No contact. Just gone. He paused. Why? Harper looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the question he wasn't asking. Because I was tired, she said. Tired of fixing people we broke. Tired of losing the ones I couldn't. Tired of being someone I didn't recognize in the mirror. So you became someone else. I tried. Did it work? Harper thought about that. About the last 3 months, the whispers, the humiliation, the silence she'd wrapped around herself like armor. I don't know yet, she said. Mason nodded slowly. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card. He handed it to her. Harper looked at it. A phone number. Nothing else. If you ever need anything, Mason said, and I mean anything, you call that number. You'll get me, or someone who can get to me. Harper pocketed the card. I'm fine. I know, but the offer stands. Mason stepped back. The general's going to want to talk to you when he wakes up. Just thought you should know. I'll be here. Mason smiled. It was brief, sincere. Yeah, I figured. He walked away. Harper got in her car and sat in the darkness, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. Her hands were still shaking, just a little. She gripped the steering wheel and started the engine. Cotet. The next morning, Harper walked into St. Sebastian's expecting to clean out her locker. Instead, she found Delilah waiting for her. You're back, Delilah said. She looked surprised, relieved. I work here. Not according to Pierce. He suspended you. He did. So why are you here? Harper shrugged. Someone's got to check on the general. Delilah smiled. You're something else, Cole. That's what they tell me. Harper walked past her, heading for the ICU. Delilah followed, matching her stride. You know the board's going to hear about last night, Delilah said. I figured. Pierce might try to spin it, make it sound like you went rogue. I did go rogue. Yeah, but you saved a general's life. That counts for something. Harper stopped outside the ICU. Does it? Delilah opened her mouth, closed it, then nodded. Yeah, it does. Harper pushed through the doors. The ICU was quiet, controlled. A nurse sat at the central station, monitoring vitals, making notes. She glanced up as Harper approached. I'm here to check on the patient from last night, Harper said. General Hargrave. The nurse frowned. Are you authorized? No. Then I can't. Let her through. Both Harper and the nurse turned. A man in a suit stood at the far end of the hallway. Tall, clean-cut. The kind of presence that made it clear he was used to people doing what he said. Agent Roderick Voss, he said, showing a badge. Department of Defense. Dr. Cole has full clearance. The nurse hesitated, then nodded. Bay 4. Harper walked. Voss followed. You're making waves, Dr. Cole, Voss said as they walked. His tone was conversational, polite, the kind of polite that came with an unspoken threat underneath. Not intentionally. Never is. Voss glanced at her. The general's a valuable asset. What you did last night, let's just say people noticed. I don't want to be noticed. Too late. They stopped outside Bay 4. Through the window, Harper could see the general, intubated, sedated, but alive. He'll want to thank you, Voss said, when he wakes up. He doesn't need to. He will anyway. That's the kind of man he is. Voss handed her a card. Another number. You need anything? You call me. Protection. Resources. A way out if things get complicated. Harper looked at the card. Why would things get complicated? Voss smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Because you're Ghost, and Ghost doesn't stay buried. He walked away. Harper stood outside Bay 4 staring at the general through the glass and wondered if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life, or if she'd finally done something right. The board hearing was scheduled for Friday. Harper spent the next 3 days working like nothing had changed. She took shifts in the ER, stitched lacerations, set fractures, kept her head down. But the whispers followed her everywhere. Did you hear? She saved a general. I heard she used to be Special Forces. No way. Her? That's what they're saying. Harper ignored them. Pierce ignored her too. He didn't speak to her, didn't look at her, just moved through the hospital like she was a ghost. Which, in a way, she was. On Thursday night, Harper was finishing her charts when Evelyn Marks sat down across from her. You've been busy, Marks said. Harper didn't look up. Always am. I'm talking about the general, the surgery, the whole secret military surgeon thing. I'm not secret. You were. Marks leaned forward. Why didn't you tell anyone? Harper set down her pen, finally looked at her. Would it have mattered? Marks thought about that. Probably not. Pierce would have found another reason to hate you. Exactly. But now he can't. Marks smiled. Now you're untouchable. I'm not untouchable. You saved a 4-star general's life. On a helipad. After being suspended. You think the board's going to fire you? Harper stood. I think they'll do what's best for the hospital, and right now I'm a liability. You're a hero. Heroes get people killed. Marks blinked. What? But Harper was already walking away. Friday morning, Harper walked into the boardroom at 9 a.m. sharp. The room was exactly what she'd expected. Long table, leather chairs, 6 board members sitting in judgment like a jury. Pierce sat at one end, his face unreadable. Harper sat across from them. Dr. Cole, the chairman said. He was older, gray-haired, with the kind of voice that had spent decades making decisions that ruined lives. Do you know why you're here? Yes? You performed an unauthorized procedure on a patient while under suspension. You violated hospital protocol. You put a patient's life at risk. He paused. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Harper looked at Pierce, then back at the chairman. The patient lived. That's not the point. Then what is? The chairman frowned. Excuse me? You said I put a patient's life at risk, but the patient lived. So what's the point? That I didn't follow protocol? That I made doctor? Pierce look bad? That I didn't ask permission before saving someone's life? Harper leaned forward. I took an oath. To do no harm. To save lives when I can. That soldier was dying. I saved him. If that's a violation, then suspend me. Fire me. I'll do it again. The room was silent. Then the doors slammed open. Every head turned, and General David Hargrave rolled in. He was in a wheelchair, pale, bandaged, with an IV pole attached to his chair. But he was awake, alert, and very much alive. Sorry I'm late, Hargrave said. His voice was rough, weak, but clear. Had to escape the ICU. Nurse wasn't happy. The chairman stood. General, you shouldn't be... Sit down. The chairman sat. Hargrave rolled to the center of the room. He looked at Harper, then at the board. You're trying to fire her. We're conducting a review, but you're trying to fire the woman who saved my life. Let me be very clear about something. Hargrave's voice hardened. 3 nights ago, I was bleeding out on a helipad. My aorta was ruptured. Shrapnel was embedded in tissue that your chief of surgery wouldn't have touched with a 10-foot pole. And this woman, this doctor you're about to throw away, climbed onto my chest and held my life together with her bare hands. He turned to Pierce. You froze. I was there. I remember. You looked at me like I was already dead. Pierce's face went white. She didn't, Hargrave continued. She saw a problem. She fixed it, and she did it while half your staff was trying to drag her out of the building. He looked back at the board. You want to fire her? Fine, but you'll do it over my objection. And I'll make sure everyone knows that St. Sebastian's Memorial cares more about protocol than saving lives. The silence that followed was deafening. The chairman cleared his throat. General, we appreciate your testimony, but there are procedures. Screw your procedures. Another voice. Everyone turned. Agent Voss stood in the doorway. Behind him, 3 more men in suits. Who are you? The chairman demanded. Department of Defense, and Dr. Cole is under federal protection as of this moment. Any disciplinary action taken against her will be reviewed by my office. Voss smiled. It was cold. I suggest you reconsider. The chairman looked like he'd swallowed glass. This is highly irregular, so is trying to fire a decorated combat surgeon for saving a life. Voss's smile didn't waver. Your move, gentlemen. The board members looked at each other. Then the chairman sighed. Dr. Cole, you're reinstated, effective immediately. He looked at Pierce. Dr. Pierce, we'll discuss your conduct separately. Pierce stood. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. He walked out without a word. Harper sat in the break room an hour later, drinking coffee that tasted like burnt rubber and relief. The door opened. General Hargrave rolled in. Alone this time. You didn't have to do that, Harper said. Yeah, I did. Hargrave rolled closer. He looked tired, in pain but alive. You saved me twice, he said quietly. Once in Kandahar, once here. I don't forget debts like that. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. He paused. They told me you left the unit, that you wanted out. I never understood why. You were the best we had. Harper stared into her coffee. I couldn't do it anymore. Every surgery, every soldier I saved, I knew I'd be sending them back into the fight, back to die. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. She looked up. I couldn't be part of that cycle anymore. Hargrave nodded slowly. So you came here. Thought you could save lives without the guilt. Something like that. Did it work? Harper smiled. It was small, sad. You're asking the same question everyone else is. And what's your answer? I don't know yet. Hargrave reached into his pocket and pulled out a small medal. He placed it on the table between them. Harper stared at it. What's this? A reminder of who you are, who you'll always be. He stood slowly, painfully, and pushed the wheelchair aside. You're Ghost, Dr. Cole, whether you like it or not, and the world needs people like you, even if you don't think you deserve to be needed. He walked out. Harper sat alone in the break room, staring at the medal. A silver star. Her hands didn't shake anymore. That night, Harper returned to the ICU to check on the General one last time before her shift ended. He was awake, alert. The breathing tube was out. He looked better, stronger. How are you feeling? Harper asked. Like I got hit by a truck, then put back together by a miracle worker. Hargrave smiled. Thank you, Ghost. Harper shook her head. Harper. All right, Harper. He paused. What happens now? Now you recover. Follow your treatment plan. Don't do anything stupid. I meant for you. Harper looked out the window. The city lights stretched out below, endless and indifferent. I don't know, she admitted, but I'll figure it out. You always do. Harper left the ICU, and for the first time in 3 years, she didn't feel like she was running. She was just walking. Forward. The woman they called weak had just held a man's life in her hands and refused to let go. And somewhere in the halls of St. Sebastian's Memorial, a quiet reckoning had begun. But somewhere in the shadows of St. Sebastian's, someone else had been watching, and they weren't impressed. Harper arrived at the hospital Monday morning to find her locker had been cleaned out. Not vandalized, not broken into, just emptied. Her spare scrubs, her stethoscope, the protein bars she kept for double shifts, all gone. In their place, a single sticky note. Clean slate, fresh start, administration. She crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. The message was clear. They wanted her to know that federal protection or not, general's gratitude or not, this was still their house, and she was living in it on borrowed time. Harper grabbed a spare set of scrubs from the supply room and headed to the ER. The morning was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that came before something broke. She found out what at 10:47 a.m. Dr. Pierce was gone. Not suspended, not reassigned, gone. His office had been cleared overnight, his name removed from the directory, his locker emptied just like hers, except his hadn't been refilled. They fired him, Delilah said, appearing at Harper's elbow like she'd materialized from thin air. Board decision, unanimous, effective immediately. Harper didn't respond. She just stared at the empty nameplate where Pierce's name used to be. You don't look surprised, Delilah said. I'm not. You don't look happy either. Harper finally looked at her. Should I be? Delilah studied her face for a long moment. Then she sighed. He made your life hell for 3 months. Most people would be celebrating. I'm not most people. Yeah, I'm starting to get that. Harper walked away, leaving Delilah standing in the hallway, shaking her head. The truth was Harper didn't feel anything about Pierce being gone. No satisfaction, no relief, just emptiness. Like watching a storm blow through and leave nothing but wreckage behind. She hadn't wanted him destroyed, she just wanted to do her job. But the world didn't work that way. You couldn't save someone powerful without someone else losing everything. That was the cost. And Harper was starting to realize she'd be paying it for a long time. The new chief of surgery arrived at noon. No fanfare. No announcement. Just a woman in her late 40s walking through the ER like she'd been there for years, observing everything, saying nothing. Dr. Miranda Ashford. Harper recognized the name. Everyone did. Ashford had built her reputation at Johns Hopkins, turning a failing trauma unit into one of the best in the country. She was brilliant, ruthless, and known for cleaning house. If you couldn't keep up, you were gone. And she was staring directly at Harper. Dr. Cole, my office, now. Harper followed her. Ashford's office was Pierce's old office, but you'd never know it. The plaques were gone. The photos were gone. The ego was gone. In its place was a desk, 2 chairs, and a wall of medical journals that looked like they'd actually been read. Ashford sat, didn't offer Harper a chair. You're a problem, Ashford said without preamble. Harper stood still. Okay. I don't mean your skills. Your record speaks for itself. 3 tours, 14 combat surgeries, Silver Star. You're one of the best trauma surgeons I've ever seen on paper. Ashford leaned back. But on paper doesn't keep a hospital running. And right now, you're a walking liability. Because I saved someone's life? Because you've made enemies. The board wanted you gone. Half the staff thinks you're a hero. The other half thinks you're a ticking time bomb. And the Department of Defense is breathing down my neck every time I so much as look at your file. Ashford's eyes narrowed. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want an honest answer. Why are you here? Harper didn't hesitate. Because I'm a doctor. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. Ashford studied her for a long moment. Then she stood. You're on probation, 90 days. You follow every protocol. You don't improvise. You don't go rogue. You don't make me regret keeping you. She walked to the door, opened it. And Cole? Stay away from the VIP cases. I don't care if the president himself rolls through those doors. You hand them off. Understood? Harper nodded. She walked out. Behind her, Ashford stood in the doorway, watching her go. That woman's either going to save this hospital, Ashford muttered to herself, or burn it to the ground. The whispers started immediately. Harper could feel them following her through the hallways like a second shadow. The other doctors didn't know how to treat her anymore. Some nodded. Some looked away. A few, mostly the younger residents, looked at her like she was something mythical. She hated it. Harper wanted to disappear again, slip back into the background, be forgettable. But ghosts couldn't be forgotten, and Harper Cole was learning that some doors, once opened, couldn't be closed. The first test came 2 days later. Harper was in the middle of suturing a scalp laceration when the ER doors exploded open. Paramedics rushed in, pushing a gurney at full speed, shouting vitals. Female early 20s, GSW to the abdomen, BP dropping, pulse weak. Harper's head snapped up. Gunshot wound. The paramedics rolled the gurney into Bay 2. Harper followed, already stripping off her gloves, grabbing fresh ones. Who's on call? She asked. You are, one of the nurses said. Harper froze. Where's Ashford? In surgery. Won't be out for another hour. Then get me someone else. The nurse stared at her. There is no one else. Everyone's tied up. It's just you. Harper looked at the woman on the gurney. She was young, 19, maybe 20. Dark hair matted with sweat, eyes wide with terror, blood soaking through the makeshift bandages the paramedics had applied. And she was dying. Harper made the decision in half a second. Get her prepped. I'm going in. The surgery took 90 minutes. The bullet had torn through the woman's liver, nicked her portal vein, and lodged itself near her spine. It was a nightmare, the kind of case that should have killed her before she made it to the hospital. But Harper didn't let her die. She worked in silence, her hands moving with a precision that bordered on supernatural. The nurses watched, transfixed, as Harper navigated tissue and blood and damage that would have sent most surgeons running for backup. When it was over, the woman was stable. Critical, but stable. Harper stepped out of the OR, exhausted, covered in blood, and found Ashford waiting for her. I told you to hand off the VIP cases, Ashford said. Harper blinked. She's not a VIP. She's a gunshot victim. She's the daughter of Councilman Raymond Voss. The name hit Harper like a slap. Voss. The same last name as the DOD agent who'd shown up at the board meeting. His niece, Ashford clarified, reading Harper's face. And now you've operated on her without clearance, without backup, and without authorization. She stepped closer. Do you have any idea what kind of firestorm you just walked into? Harper met her eyes. She was dying. I saved her. That's my job. Your job is to follow orders. My job is to save lives. Those aren't always the same thing. Harper didn't respond. She just walked away. Ashford let her go. But as Harper disappeared down the hallway, Ashford pulled out her phone and made a call. "We've got a problem," she said when the line picked up. "And her name is Harper Cole." The fallout came fast. By evening, the hospital was swarming with agents. Not just DOD, FBI, local police. They locked down the floor where the woman, Lily Voss, was recovering. No one in or out without clearance. Harper was questioned 3 times. Same questions, different interrogators. "Did you know who she was?" "No." "Did anyone tell you to operate on her?" "No." "Did you have authorization?" "He was dying. I didn't need authorization." The third interrogator, a woman in a dark suit with eyes like frozen glass, leaned forward. "Dr. Cole, do you understand that Lily Voss is not just a councilman's niece? She's a federal witness. She was supposed to be in protective custody when she was shot." Harper's blood went cold. "What?" "She was testifying against a trafficking ring. Someone found her. Someone tried to kill her. And now you've saved her life, which means you've just painted a target on your own back." The woman stood. "Congratulations, Dr. Cole. You're now part of a federal investigation." She walked out. Harper sat alone in the interrogation room, a repurposed office on the 3rd floor, and tried to process what she'd just heard. Witness protection. Trafficking ring. Target. She thought she was just saving a patient. She'd walked into a war. Agent Roderick Voss showed up an hour later. He looked tired, angry, and something else Harper couldn't quite place. Grateful. "You saved my niece," he said without preamble. Harper nodded. That bullet was meant to silence her, permanently. Voss sat down across from her. Lily was set to testify next week. Names, dates, locations, she had everything, and someone very powerful wanted her dead. "Did they get what they wanted?" Voss smiled grimly. "Not even close. Thanks to you, she's alive, and now she's more protected than the president." "That's not why I did it." "I know." Voss leaned forward. "But it doesn't change the fact that you're involved now. The people who went after Lily, they're not going to stop. And if they think you're a threat, they'll come for you too." Harper's jaw tightened. "Let them." Voss studied her. "You really don't care, do you?" "I care about my patients. Everything else is noise." "That's a dangerous way to live." "I've lived dangerously before." Voss stood. "I'm putting a detail on you. 2 agents, 24/7, non-negotiable." Harper started to protest. "Non-negotiable," Voss repeated. His voice was steel. "You saved my brother's life. You saved my niece's life. I'm not letting anyone take yours." He walked out, and Harper sat alone, realizing that her quiet life had just become very, very loud. The agents arrived that night, 2 of them, a man and a woman. Both young, both professional, both armed. The man introduced himself as Agent Torres. The woman was Agent Kim. They would be shadowing Harper wherever she went, home, work, grocery store, everywhere. Harper hated it immediately. But she didn't argue. The next morning, she walked into the hospital with 2 armed federal agents flanking her. The stares were immediate. Nurses whispered, residents pointed, even the janitors stopped to watch. Harper ignored them all. She went straight to the ICU to check on Lily. The girl was awake, pale, scared, but alive. "You're the doctor," Lily said. Her voice was hoarse. Harper nodded. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got shot." Harper almost smiled. "That's accurate." Lily looked at the agent standing outside her door, then back at Harper. "They said you saved me, that I was supposed to die." "You didn't!" "Because of you." Harper didn't respond. She checked Lily's vitals, adjusted her IV, made notes on her chart. "Why?" Lily asked. Harper looked up. "Why what?" "Why did you save me? You didn't know who I was. You didn't know what I was involved in. You could have just let me go." Harper met her eyes. "That's not how it works." "How what works?" "Being a doctor." Lily stared at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Thank you." Harper left without another word, but as she walked away, she heard Lily whisper something to one of the agents. "She's like a ghost." The agent didn't respond. But Harper heard it, and for the first time in 3 years, she wondered if leaving that name behind had ever really been possible. The attack came 3 nights later. Harper was leaving the hospital at 2 a.m., exhausted from a double shift, flanked by Torres and Kim. The parking lot was empty. Silent. The kind of silence that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Torres noticed it too. Stay close. They moved toward Harper's car. 30 feet. 20. 10. The first shot shattered the windshield. Torres went down immediately, blood spraying from his shoulder. Kim returned fire, pulling Harper behind a parked van as bullets tore through the air around them. Stay down, Kim shouted. Harper pressed herself against the van, her heart hammering. She could hear footsteps. Multiple sets, coming closer. Kim's gun clicked empty. She swore. Harper looked at her. How many? At least 3. Maybe more. Can you move? Not fast enough. Harper looked at Torres. He was conscious, clutching his shoulder, trying to stop the bleeding. Go, Torres gasped. Get inside, lock the doors. Harper didn't move. Kim grabbed her arm. He's right. You need to... Harper pulled free. She crawled to Torres, ripped his tactical vest open, and grabbed the backup magazine clipped to his chest. Kim stared. What are you... Harper slammed the magazine into Kim's gun. Covering fire. 3 seconds. Then we move. You can't... 3 seconds. Kim looked at Harper, really looked at her, and saw Ghost staring back. On 3, Kim said. Harper nodded. 1. Harper grabbed Torres under his good arm. 2. Kim raised the gun. 3. Kim stood and fired. Harper hauled Torres to his feet and dragged him toward the hospital entrance. Bullets screamed past them. Glass exploded. Metal sparked. And then they were through the doors. Harper hit the emergency lockdown button. Steel shutters slammed down over the windows. Alarms blared. Torres collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Kim stood by the door, gun raised, watching for movement outside. Harper grabbed a trauma kit from the crash cart and went to work on Torres's shoulder. The bullet had gone clean through. Lucky. She packed the wound, applied pressure, wrapped it tight. You're good, she said. You'll need surgery, but you're good. Torres looked at her with something close to awe. You just dragged me 50 feet under fire. You would have done the same. Yeah, but I'm trained for it. Harper didn't respond. She just stood and walked to the window, peering through the gap in the shutters. The parking lot was empty. Whoever had been out there was gone. But Harper knew they'd be back. And next time, she might not be so lucky. Agent Voss arrived 20 minutes later with a tactical team. They swept the hospital, found nothing. The shooters had vanished like smoke. Voss found Harper in the break room, drinking coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. You saved my agents, he said. Harper shrugged. They saved me first. That's not how Torres tells it. He said you moved like you'd done it before. I have. Voss sat down across from her. He looked exhausted. This is escalating faster than I thought. Whoever's behind this, they're not playing around. They wanted Lily dead. Now they want you dead too. Because I saved her. Because you're a witness. You saw things. You know things. Even if you don't realize it yet. Voss paused. We need to move you. Protective custody. Safe house. At least until we catch the people responsible. Harper shook her head. I'm not leaving. Cole, I'm not leaving. I have patience. I have a job. I'm not running. This isn't running. It's surviving. Harper looked at him. Her gray eyes were flat, empty. The same look she'd given Pierce 3 months ago. I didn't survive 3 tours to die in a parking lot. If they want me, they can come find me, but I'm not hiding. Voss stared at her. Then he laughed. It was short, bitter. You really are Ghost, Harper stood. No, I'm Harper Cole, and Harper Cole doesn't run. She walked out. Voss watched her go, shaking his head. That woman's going to get herself killed, he muttered. Behind him, Kim appeared in the doorway. Her arm was bandaged. Her face was bruised. Or she's going to get them killed first, Kim said. Voss looked at her. Kim shrugged. I've seen a lot of operators in my career, sir, but I've never seen anyone move like that. Not under fire, not without training. She paused. Whatever she was before she came here, it's still in her. She's just been pretending it's not. Voss nodded slowly. Then maybe it's time she stopped pretending. The next morning, Harper found a file on her locker. No note, no explanation. Just a thick manila folder with a single word stamped on the front in red ink. Classified. Harper opened it. Inside were photos, documents, surveillance footage, all related to the trafficking ring Lily had been testifying against. Names she didn't recognize, faces she'd never seen, locations that meant nothing to her. And then, on the last page, a single photograph. A man in his 60s, silver hair, expensive suit, standing outside a courthouse, smiling for the cameras. Underneath the photo, a caption. Silas Brennan, CEO, Brennan Holdings, suspected head of trafficking operation, no charges filed, insufficient evidence. Harper stared at the photo. She'd never seen this man before, but something about his smile made her skin crawl. She closed the file and realized that whoever had left it for her wanted her to see something, to know something, to do something. The question was what? Harper tucked the file into her bag and went to work. But all day that smile haunted her. The kind of smile that said he'd already won, that he was untouchable, that people like Harper, people who tried to do the right thing, were just speed bumps on his road to wherever men like him went. She was reviewing charts that evening when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Harper almost didn't answer. Then she remembered the card Voss had given her. The other card. The one from General Hargrave. She answered. Cole? Dr. Cole, this is Brennan? Harper's blood turned to ice. The voice on the other end was smooth, cultured, the kind of voice that belonged to country clubs and boardrooms. I wanted to call personally, Brennan continued, to congratulate you. You saved that young woman's life. Very impressive, very heroic. Harper didn't respond. But I'm calling to give you some advice. Doctor to, well, whatever you are. Brennan's tone shifted, just slightly. Stay in your lane. You're very good at what you do, saving lives, stitching wounds, being the quiet little hero. But when you start involving yourself in things that don't concern you, like federal investigations, witness testimonies, classified files, well, that's when people get hurt. Harper's grip on the phone tightened. Is that a threat? It's a courtesy. I'm a businessman, Dr. Cole. I solve problems. And right now, you're becoming a problem. He paused. But you don't have to be. Walk away. Forget whatever you think you know. Go back to being nobody. And I'll forget you exist. And if I don't? Brennan laughed. It was cold, empty. Then I'll remind you why being nobody was safer. The line went dead. Harper stood in the empty break room staring at her phone. Her hands weren't shaking. Her heart wasn't racing. She just felt calm. The kind of calm that came before a storm. Harper pulled out the classified file. Looked at Brennan's photo one more time and made a decision. She wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. And she sure as hell wasn't nobody. Ghost was back. And this time, someone was going to pay. Harper walked out of the break room and straight into Ashford's office. She didn't knock, just opened the door and stepped inside. Ashford looked up, irritated. Cole, what? Harper dropped the file on her desk. You need to see this. Ashford opened it. Her face went pale. Where did you get this? Someone left it in my locker. Who? I don't know, but whoever it was wants me to do something about it. Harper leaned forward. And I'm going to. Ashford stood. No, you're not. This is federal. This is way above your pay grade. You hand this over to Voss and you walk away. I tried walking away. It didn't work. Cole, Brennan called me tonight, threatened me, told me to stay in my lane or people would get hurt. Harper's voice was ice. I'm done staying in my lane. I'm done being quiet. I'm done letting people like him win because they think they're untouchable. Ashford stared at her. You're going to get yourself killed. Maybe, but at least I'll go down fighting. Harper walked out. And behind her, Ashford sat down slowly, staring at the file. That woman's not going to get herself killed, Ashford muttered. She's going to start a war. Harper spent the rest of the night digging. She called in favors, contacted old military connections, people who owed Ghost, people who remembered. By morning, she had a list. Properties Brennan owned, shell companies he controlled, people who worked for him, knowingly or not, and a pattern. A trail of money and power and influence that led back to one place. St. Sebastian's Memorial Hospital. Brennan was on the board. He'd been there for 8 years. Quietly. Donating money, attending fundraisers, playing the role of philanthropist, all while using the hospital as a front for trafficking victims through the medical system. Harper's stomach turned. She'd been working in a building funded by the man who tried to kill her patient, and no one knew. Harper printed everything, made copies, sealed them in envelopes. Then she called Voss. "I need to meet with you, now, and bring everyone who matters." 2 hours later, Harper sat in a secure conference room with Voss, his tactical team, 2 FBI agents, and Ashford. She laid out everything, the file, the phone call, the connections, the money trail. When she finished, the room was silent. One of the FBI agents spoke first. "If this is true, it's true," Harper said. "Then we've been looking in the wrong place for 8 months. Voss leaned forward. "How solid is this?" "Solid enough to get warrants. Solid enough to start tearing Brennan's empire apart." Harper met his eyes. "Solid enough to end him." Voss looked at the FBI agents. They nodded. "Do it," Voss said. Harper stood. "There's one more thing." Everyone looked at her. "Brennan knows I have this. He threatened me, which means he's going to move fast. If we want to catch him, we need to move faster." Harper pulled out her phone. "And I know how." She showed them a text message from an unknown number sent an hour ago. "Room 447, midnight. Come alone." Voss went pale. "That's a trap." "I know." "You're not going." Harper looked at him. "Yes, I am." "Cole, it's the only way to draw him out. He thinks I'm scared. He thinks I'll run. He's wrong." Harper's voice was steady. "I go in. You follow, and when he shows his face, you take him down." The FBI agents exchanged looks. "It's risky," one said. "It's suicide," the other corrected. Harper smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Then it's a good thing I've died before." Voss stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "We do this my way. You wear a wire. You follow every instruction, and at the first sign of trouble, you get out. Understood?" Harper nodded. "Understood? Understood." At 11:45 p.m., Harper walked into St. Sebastian's Memorial Hospital wearing a wire thin enough to be invisible and a vest light enough to hide under her scrubs. Torres and Kim flanked her. Voss and his team were positioned throughout the building. FBI was monitoring every exit. Harper took the elevator to the 4th floor. The hallway was dark, empty. Most of the rooms were vacant. This floor was under renovation. Room 447 was at the end of the hall. Harper walked slowly, listening, watching. The door was unlocked. She pushed it open. The room was empty. No furniture, no equipment, just bare walls and shadows, and a single chair in the center of the room. Harper stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind her. She spun. A man stood there. Not Brennan. Someone younger. Harder. He held a gun. "Dr. Cole," the man said. "Mr. Brennan sends his regards." Harper didn't move. "Where is he?" "Somewhere you'll never find him." "Then why am I here?" The man smiled. "Because you're a message." He raised the gun, and the lights went out. Harper dropped. The gunshot tore through the space where her head had been half a second earlier, the muzzle flash lighting up the room like a strobe. She hit the floor hard, rolled left, and came up behind the chair as 2 more shots punched through the plaster behind her. Her earpiece crackled. "Ghost, we're coming." "Don't." Harper's voice was barely a whisper. "He's got the hallway. You come in, you're dead. We can't just... Trust me." She ripped the earpiece out and crushed it under her heel. The wire, too. If they tracked her movements, they'd rush in, and this guy wasn't alone. She could hear it in the way he moved, controlled, patient, waiting for backup that was already positioning itself outside. The room was still dark. Harper's eyes adjusted fast. Combat training, muscle memory. The kind of thing you never forgot, even when you tried. The gunman moved closer. She could hear his boots on the linoleum, slow, deliberate. "They told me you were special forces," he said. His voice was calm, almost conversational. "Said you'd be hard to kill. I told them you were just a doctor now. Soft, out of practice." Harper stayed silent, listening, calculating distance. "But you move fast," he continued. "Faster than I expected. Makes me think maybe they were right. He was 5 feet away. Maybe 6. Harper's hand closed around a piece of broken tile on the floor. She waited. Doesn't matter, though, the gunman said. Fast or slow. You're still gonna... Harper threw the tile hard to her right. The gunman spun, fired twice. Harper lunged left, grabbed the chair, and swung it with everything she had. It caught him in the ribs. He grunted, stumbled back, and Harper was on him. She drove her elbow into his throat, grabbed his gun hand, twisted until something snapped. He screamed. The gun clattered to the floor. Harper kicked it away, drove her knee into his stomach, and when he doubled over, she brought her elbow down on the back of his neck. He collapsed. Harper stood over him, breathing hard, her hands shaking just slightly. Then she picked up the gun. The door burst open. Torres and Kim came through, weapons raised, flashlights cutting through the darkness. "Clear!" Kim shouted. Torres moved to the gunman, checked his pulse. "He's alive." "Unconscious." Harper handed Kim the gun. "There are more." He was waiting for backup. "How do you know?" "Because that's what I would have done." Torres spoke into his radio. "We've got one suspect down, 4th floor, room 447. Cole is secure. Repeat, Cole is secure." Voss's voice crackled back. "Copy. We're sweeping the building. Stay put." Harper shook her head. "No, we need to move. Now." "Cole, he said I was a message. That means Brennan's here, somewhere in this building. And if we don't find him before he leaves, we lose him." Kim exchanged a look with Torres. "She's right." Torres sighed. "Voss is going to kill us." "Get in line," Harper said. They moved. The 4th floor was a maze of construction equipment and plastic sheeting. Exposed wiring hung from the ceiling. The smell of paint and sawdust filled the air. It was the perfect place for an ambush. Harper led the way, moving fast but controlled, checking corners, staying low. Torres and Kim flanked her, professional and silent. They found the second gunman at the stairwell. He came around the corner too fast, saw them too late. Kim put 2 rounds in his chest before he could raise his weapon. He went down hard. "2 down," Torres said into his radio. No response. Torres tried again. "Command, do you copy?" Static. Harper's jaw tightened. "They're jamming us." "How?" "Doesn't matter. We're on our own." They moved faster now, down the stairwell. 3rd floor. 2nd. The hospital was eerily quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that came right before everything went to hell. They reached the main level and heard voices. Harper held up a fist. Torres and Kim froze. The voices were coming from the administrative wing. Harper recognized one of them, Ashford. Harper motioned for Torres and Kim to stay back. She moved forward alone, pressing herself against the wall, listening. "Telling you, this wasn't the deal." Ashford's voice was tight, angry. "You said donations, fundraising. You never said anything about..." "About what?" That was Brennan, smooth, unconcerned. "About using the resources you so graciously provided?" "Dr. Ashford, you've been chief of surgery for less than a week. You don't get to have moral objections now." "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know. There's a difference." Brennan's voice hardened. "You took the money. You renovated your trauma wing. You hired new staff. All of it funded by me. And now you're going to stand there and pretend you're innocent?" Silence. "That's what I thought," Brennan said. "Now, where's Dr. Cole?" Harper's blood went cold. "I don't know," Ashford said. "She was supposed to meet someone on the 4th floor. She killed him and his backup." Brennan sounded almost amused. "Which means she's still in the building, still thinking she can stop me. It's almost adorable. You need to leave now, before the FBI. The FBI won't find me. I own half of them." Brennan's footsteps moved closer. "But Dr. Cole is a problem, a loose end, and I don't leave loose ends." Harper stepped around the corner. Brennan was standing in the middle of the hallway, flanked by 2 more men in tactical gear. Ashford stood off to the side, pale and shaking. "You talk too much," Harper said. Every head turned. Brennan smiled. "Dr. Cole. Right on time." "Let her go." Harper's voice was flat, empty. "This is between you and me." "Is it?" Brennan glanced at Ashford. "I think Dr. Ashford has more to answer for than you realize. Don't you, Miranda?" Ashford didn't respond. She just stared at Harper, her eyes pleading. Harper ignored her, focused on Brennan. "You're not walking out of here." "Neither are you." Brennan nodded. The two gunmen raised their weapons, and Torres and Kim came through the side door, guns trained, voices loud and clear. "Drop them! Now!" The gunmen hesitated. Brennan didn't. "Kill them all." The hallway exploded. Harper dove behind a crash cart as bullets tore through the air. Torres and Kim returned fire, their shots precise and controlled. One of Brennan's men went down immediately. The other ducked behind a column, still shooting. Ashford screamed and dropped to the floor, covering her head. Brennan ran. Harper didn't think. She just moved. She sprinted after him, ignoring the gunfire behind her, ignoring the shouts from Torres and Kim. Brennan was fast for a man his age, but Harper was faster. She'd been training for this her whole life, even when she didn't know it. Brennan turned a corner. Harper followed. He was heading for the parking garage. Harper could see the exit sign ahead, glowing red in the dim hallway. She pushed harder. Brennan burst through the door. Harper was 3 steps behind. The parking garage was dark, cold. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting everything in harsh shadows. Brennan stopped in the middle of the garage, turned, and pulled a gun from his jacket. Harper skidded to a halt. They stood 20 feet apart, staring at each other. "You're persistent," Brennan said. "I'll give you that." Harper didn't respond. She was calculating distance, cover, options. "You could have walked away," Brennan continued. "I gave you the chance, told you to stay in your lane, but you couldn't help yourself, could you? Had to be the hero." "I'm not a hero." "No, you're a ghost, a relic, someone who should have stayed buried." Brennan raised the gun. "And now I'm going to put you back in the ground." Harper didn't move. "You really think you're walking out of here?" "I know I am, because unlike you, I plan ahead." Brennan smiled. "My helicopter's on the roof. My lawyers are already filing injunctions, and by the time the FBI figures out where I've gone, I'll be somewhere they can't touch me." "You're going to run." "I'm going to relocate. There's a difference." Brennan's finger moved to the trigger. "Any last words?" Harper's eyes locked on his. "Yeah. Duck." Brennan frowned. The shot came from behind him. Agent Voss stood in the doorway, his weapon raised, his face cold. Brennan looked down at the spreading red stain on his chest. His gun slipped from his fingers. He took one step, then another. Then he collapsed. Voss walked forward slowly, keeping his weapon trained on Brennan's body. He kicked the gun away, checked for a pulse. "He's done," Voss said. Harper exhaled. Her hands were shaking now, for real this time. Voss looked at her. "You okay?" Harper nodded. "You're a terrible liar." Harper almost smiled. Then she heard the sirens, lots of them, getting closer. Voss holstered his weapon. "We need to get you out of here. FBI is going to want to debrief you for about 6 hours. What about Ashford?" "She's in custody. Turns out she knew more than she let on. Not enough to charge her with trafficking, but enough to end her career." Voss paused. "She'll cooperate. She doesn't have a choice." Harper looked at Brennan's body. The man who'd tried to kill Lily, who'd threatened her, who'd turned a hospital into a front for moving victims. He looked smaller in death, less powerful, just another body. "Come on," Voss said. "Let's go." Harper followed him out of the garage. Behind them, Brennan's blood pooled on the concrete, spreading slowly in the flickering light. The debrief took 8 hours, not 6. Harper sat in a federal building downtown, answering the same questions over and over, while lawyers and agents and people in suits whose titles she didn't catch took notes and conferred in whispers. By the time they let her go, the sun was coming up. Torres drove her back to the hospital. Kim rode shotgun. Neither of them said much. "You did good," Torres said finally. "Back there, in the garage. You kept him talking. Gave Voss time to get into position." Harper stared out the window. "I wasn't trying to keep him talking. I was trying to figure out how to take his gun without getting shot." Kim laughed. It was brief, genuine. "Of course you were." They pulled up to the hospital. Harper got out. "You gonna be okay?" Torres asked. Harper nodded. "Always am." She walked inside. The hospital was waking up. Nurses changing shifts, doctors making rounds. The normal rhythm of a place that never truly slept. Harper went straight to the ICU. Lily was awake, sitting up, color back in her face. "You look better," Harper said. Lily smiled. "I heard what happened. They said you stopped him." "It was a team effort." "That's not what the agents said. They said you walked into a trap and came out the other side." Lily paused. "They said you saved me twice, once on the table, once by making sure the man who wanted me dead couldn't hurt anyone else." Harper didn't respond. She just checked Lily's vitals, made notes on her chart. "Thank you," Lily said quietly. Harper looked up, met her eyes. "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do. Because of you, I get to testify. I get to tell the truth. And maybe some of the people he hurt will get justice." Lily's voice cracked. "That matters." Harper nodded. "It does." She left before Lily could say anything else. In the hallway, Harper found Evelyn Marks waiting for her. "You're everywhere today," Harper said. "So are you." Marks fell into step beside her. "I heard about Brennan, about Ashford, about all of it. News travels fast. This place runs on gossip. You should know that by now." Marks paused. "For what it's worth, I don't think you're a problem. I think you're exactly what this hospital needs." Harper stopped walking. "And what's that?" "Someone who gives a damn." Marks smiled. "The board's meeting tomorrow. Emergency session. They're going to need a new chief of surgery, a new direction, a new face. Good for them. I'm nominating you." Harper stared at her. "What?" "You heard me. I'm nominating you for chief of surgery. I've been here 3 months. And in that time, you've saved a general, exposed a trafficking ring, and survived an assassination attempt. I'd say you're qualified." Marks crossed her arms. "Think about it. You could actually change things here, make this place better." Harper shook her head. "I'm not a leader." "You led a team through a combat zone last night. You made decisions under fire. You kept people alive." Mark stepped closer. "You're exactly a leader. You just don't want to admit it." Harper didn't respond. She just walked away. But Marks's words followed her. Harper spent the rest of the day working. Patients came and went. Lacerations, fractures, the usual chaos of an ER. It felt normal, safe, like the last 48 hours had been a dream, except they hadn't. Harper's phone buzzed around 6 p.m. A text from General Hargrave. "Heard you had an eventful week. Proud of you, Ghost. Let me know if you need anything. DH." Harper stared at the message, then typed back, "Just doing my job." His response came immediately. "That's what heroes always say." Harper put her phone away. She didn't feel like a hero. She felt tired, hollowed out. Like she'd been running for so long she'd forgotten what it was like to stand still. But she was still standing. That counted for something. Harper left the hospital at midnight. No agents this time. Voss had pulled the detail, said the threat was neutralized. She was safe. She didn't feel safe. She felt exposed. Harper drove home, a small apartment on the edge of Ashford Heights that she'd rented under a name that wasn't hers. Old habits. She parked in the alley out back, climbed the stairs, unlocked the door. The apartment was dark, empty. Exactly how she'd left it. She locked the door behind her. 3 locks, deadbolt, chain. Then she checked the windows, all secure. Harper dropped her bag on the couch and stood in the middle of the room, listening to the silence. For 3 years, this was what she'd wanted. Quiet. Anonymity. A life where no one knew her name. But now the quiet felt wrong, like she was waiting for something to break it. Harper made coffee, sat at her kitchen table, opened her laptop. She had emails, hundreds of them. Most were spam. Some were from the hospital. A few were from numbers she didn't recognize. She opened one at random. It was from Agent Voss. "Dr. Cole, I wanted to follow up on our conversation from this morning. The DoD is reviewing your file for potential reinstatement or consultation roles. If you're interested, please contact me at your earliest convenience. RV." Harper closed the email without responding. The next one was from Torres. "Hey Ghost, Kim and I are grabbing drinks tomorrow if you want to join. No pressure, just figured you might want to decompress with people who get it. T." Harper almost smiled. Then she closed that one too. The third email made her stop. It was from an address she didn't recognize. No subject line, just a message. You think it's over. It's not. Brennan was just the beginning. A friend. Harper stared at the screen. Then she stood, walked to her bedroom, and pulled a box from under her bed. Inside were things she hadn't touched in 3 years. Dog tags, a folded flag, a knife with her unit insignia engraved on the blade, and a phone. Burner. Encrypted. The kind you only used when you needed to disappear. Harper powered it on. It took 30 seconds to boot. Then a single message appeared. "Welcome back, Ghost." Harper's jaw tightened. She dialed a number from memory. It rang twice. A voice answered, male, rough, familiar. "I was wondering when you'd call." "I need information," Harper said. "About Brennan, about who he was working with, about what's still out there." "That's going to cost you." "Name your price." The voice laughed. "I don't want money. I want you back in the game." Harper closed her eyes. "I left the game." "No, you paused. There's a difference." A pause. "Meet me tomorrow. Noon. The old warehouse on 5th and Grand. Come alone." "Who is this?" But the line was already dead. Harper sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the phone in her hand. She'd thought she was done. Thought she'd left Ghost behind. But Ghost wasn't a person. It was a part of her, and no matter how far she ran, it was always going to catch up. Harper stood, walked to her closet, pulled out a jacket she hadn't worn in years. Black. Tactical, with pockets designed for things that weren't medical supplies. She put it on. Still fit. The next morning, Harper called in sick. First time in 3 months. The nurse who answered sounded surprised. "You okay, Dr. Cole?" "Just need a day. I'll be back tomorrow." "Okay, feel better?" Harper hung up. She wasn't sick, but she needed time, space, to figure out what was happening and who wanted her back in the fight. At 11:45 a.m., Harper pulled up to the warehouse on 5th and Grand. It was abandoned, windows broken, graffiti covering the walls, the kind of place people avoided unless they had a reason to be there. Harper had a reason. She parked a block away, walked the rest of the distance, stayed in the shadows. Old training kicking in. The warehouse door was unlocked. Harper stepped inside. The interior was dark, empty, just concrete and rusted metal and the smell of mold. "Over here." Harper turned. A man stood in the far corner, tall, lean, face hidden in shadow. Harper moved closer and stopped. She knew that face. Reed. Captain Marcus Reed, her old CO. The man who'd trained her, who'd turned her from a field medic into Ghost. The man who was supposed to be dead. Reed smiled. "Hey, Harper. Long time." Harper's hand moved to her pocket, where her knife used to be. Except she wasn't wearing that jacket anymore. She'd left it in the car. "You're dead," Harper said. "I was at your funeral." "You were at a funeral. Wasn't mine." Reed stepped into the light. He looked older, harder, scars on his face that hadn't been there 3 years ago. "I needed to disappear, just like you." "Why?" "Because the same people who came after you came after me. Except I wasn't as good at playing dead." Reed leaned against a rusted support beam. "Brennan wasn't working alone, Harper. He was part of a network, a big one, and they don't like loose ends." Harper's blood ran cold. "How big?" "Big enough that killing Brennan just pissed them off. Big enough that they're coming for everyone who was involved, including you." "Why tell me this?" "Because you're not the only one they want dead, and I need your help." Reed pulled a file from his jacket, tossed it to Harper. She caught it, opened it. Inside were photos, names, locations, all connected by red lines. "What is this?" "The rest of Brennan's operation. The people he answered to. The ones who are still out there." Reed's voice was grim. "And the list of people they're going to kill to keep it quiet." Harper flipped through the pages. Stopped. Her name was on the list. So was General Hargraves. So was Lily's. "They're cleaning house," Reed said. "And you're at the top." Harper closed the file. Looked at Reed. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to do what you do best. Fight back." Reed pushed off the beam. "I've got a team. Small. Off the books. We take down operations like this, quietly, efficiently. And we need a medic who can think like an operator. I'm not an operator anymore. You were never anything else. Reed stepped closer. You can go back to your hospital, pretend this isn't happening, wait for them to come for you in the middle of the night. Or you can come with me, and we end this before they get the chance. Harper stared at him. Every instinct screamed to walk away, to go back to her apartment, her job, her quiet life. But that email, the threat, the list, they weren't going to stop, and neither could she. When do we start? Harper asked. Reed smiled. Now. He turned toward a door at the back of the warehouse. Harper followed. They walked into a room filled with equipment, tactical gear, weapons, maps, screens showing surveillance footage from locations Harper didn't recognize. And 3 other people, a woman in her 30s with short red hair and a rifle slung across her back, a man in his 40s with a scar running down his left cheek, and a younger guy, mid-20s, hunched over a laptop, typing fast. Harper Cole, Reed said. Meet the team. That's Corporal Sarah Vega, Sergeant James Reaper Cross, and our tech specialist, Danny Park. Vega nodded. Heard a lot about Ghost. Cross didn't say anything, just sized Harper up with cold eyes. Park looked up from his laptop. You're shorter than I expected. Harper ignored him, looked at Reed. What's the target? Reed pulled up a map on one of the screens. This is a compound in Virginia, off the grid, owned by a shell company connected to Brennan's network. Intel says they're moving assets, human assets, out of the country in 72 hours. If we don't hit them before then, those people disappear forever. How many hostages? At least 20, maybe more. How many guards? Unknown, but heavily armed. Harper studied the map. The compound was isolated, surrounded by forest. One road in, one road out. It's a kill box, she said. Yeah, Reed agreed. Which is why we need someone who can think on their feet, adapt, survive. Harper looked at the team, then back at Reed. What's the play? Reed smiled. We go in fast, extract the hostages, burn the compound to the ground, and make sure everyone involved knows that Ghost is back. Harper's jaw tightened. She'd spent 3 years trying to bury that name, that life. But maybe it was time to stop running. Maybe it was time to let Ghost do what she did best. Hunt. When do we leave? Harper asked. 30 minutes, Reed said. Gear up. Harper walked to the equipment wall, started pulling gear, vest, holster, knife. It felt familiar, comfortable, like coming home. Vega appeared beside her. You really as good as Reed says? Harper strapped the vest on, checked the fit. Guess we'll find out. Vega grinned. I like her. 30 minutes later, they were in a black SUV, driving south out of Ashford Heights. Harper sat in the back, staring out the window, watching the city disappear behind them. Her phone buzzed. A text from Torres. Still up for drinks? Harper stared at the message, then typed back. Rain check, something came up. She turned off her phone, and when they hit the highway, Harper closed her eyes. For the first time in 3 years, she felt like she knew where she was going, even if it was straight into hell. The compound sat in a clearing 20 miles outside Harrington, Virginia, surrounded by pines so thick they looked black in the fading light. No signs, no markings, just a cluster of buildings that could have been mistaken for a hunting lodge if you didn't know what to look for. Harper knew what to look for. Guard towers. Razor wire hidden behind the tree line. Cameras mounted at irregular intervals. And the kind of silence that only came from people who knew how to stay invisible. Danny, give me eyes, Reed said from the driver's seat. Park tapped his laptop. A satellite feed appeared on the screen mounted between the front seats. Thermal signatures lit up the buildings in shades of red and orange. I'm counting 26 hostiles, most of them concentrated in the main building. Looks like they're moving assets through the east wing. Park zoomed in. And I've got heat signatures in the basement, at least 18, stationary. That's them, Vega said from the back seat. Hostages. Reed killed the engine. They were parked a quarter-mile out, hidden by the tree line. We go in at 2200 hours. That gives us 30 minutes to get into position. Cross checked his rifle. What's the extraction plan? Fast and loud. We hit the east wing, neutralize the guards, secure the hostages, and get out before they can call for backup. Reed looked at Harper. You're on medical. Anyone goes down, you keep them breathing until we're clear. Harper nodded. She was already geared up. Vest, holster, med kit strapped to her thigh. The weight felt right, familiar. One more thing, Reed said. Intel says the woman running this operation is on site tonight. Victoria Cross. No relation to our Reaper here. She's Brennan's second in command, the one who coordinated the trafficking routes. If we take her alive, we take down the entire network. And if we don't? Vega asked. Reed's expression didn't change. Then we make sure she can't hurt anyone else. They moved through the forest in pairs. Reed and Cross took point. Vega and Park covered the flanks. Harper moved with Reed, her footsteps silent on the pine needles, her breathing controlled. 3 years. That's how long it had been since she'd done this. But her body remembered the way you moved in hostile territory, the way you listened for sounds that didn't belong, the way you kept your mind clear and your hands ready. Ghost was back, and Ghost didn't hesitate. They reached the perimeter at 21:58 hours. The compound was lit by floodlights, but there were gaps, blind spots. Reed signaled for them to hold position. Park pulled out a small device. Cutting their comms now. The lights flickered, once, twice, then went dark. Go, Reed said. They moved fast. Cross and Vega took the guard tower. 2 suppressed shots. Both guards dropped without a sound. Harper and Reed made for the east wing entrance. Park stayed back, covering their 6. The door was locked. Reed placed a small charge, stepped back. The explosion was quiet, controlled. The door blew inward. They went through. The hallway was narrow, dimly lit. Harper could hear voices ahead, shouting, footsteps. Reed raised his weapon. 3 o'clock. A guard came around the corner. Reed put 2 rounds center mass. The guard went down. Another guard appeared behind him. Harper drew her sidearm and fired. Headshot. Clean. Reed glanced at her. Thought you were just a doctor now. I lied. They kept moving. Down the hall, through a door, into a larger room that looked like it had been set up for processing. Tables, chairs, zip ties scattered on the floor, and blood. Not a lot, but enough. Harper's jaw tightened. Basement's through there, Reed said, pointing to a stairwell at the far end. They descended. The air got colder, damper. Harper could smell mold and fear and something else, something metallic. The basement was a maze of cells, chain-link fencing sectioned off into cages, and inside those cages, people, mostly women, a few men. All of them looked terrified. We're getting you out, Reed said. Stay quiet. Stay low. He shot the locks, one by one. The cages opened. Harper moved through them, checking each person for injuries. Most were malnourished, dehydrated. A few had broken bones that had healed wrong. One woman had a gunshot wound to her shoulder that looked weeks old and infected. Can you walk? Harper asked. The woman nodded, barely. Harper gave her an antibiotic shot from her kit. Stay with me. We'll get you fixed up. Vega's voice crackled over the radio. Reed, we've got a problem. Reinforcements just pulled up. At least 12 more hostiles, and they're heading for the east wing. Copy that. How long do we have? 3 minutes. Maybe less. Reed swore. Harper, get these people out through the west exit. Park will guide you to the rendezvous point. What about you? We're buying you time. Reed checked his mag. Go. Harper didn't argue. She gathered the hostages, 18 in total, and moved them toward the stairs. They were slow, scared. Some couldn't walk without help. Harper supported the woman with the gunshot wound. Come on, stay with me. They made it to the ground floor. The west exit was ahead. 50 feet. 40. Then the door exploded inward. 4 guards came through, weapons raised. Harper pulled the woman behind a table, drew her sidearm, and fired. 2 guards went down. The other 2 took cover. The hostages scattered, screaming, panicking. Harper swore. She couldn't protect 18 people and fight 4 guards at the same time. Then Vega came through the side door, rifle up, and put down the remaining guards with clinical efficiency. You're welcome, Vega said. Harper didn't respond. She was already moving, gathering the hostages, getting them organized. West exit, now. Move. They ran. Outside, Park was waiting with 2 vans. Get in! Go! 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 Harper loaded the hostages. The woman with the gunshot wound went in last. Harper climbed in after her, slamming the door. Park hit the gas. Behind them, the compound erupted in gunfire. Harper looked back through the rear window. She could see muzzle flashes, explosions, and figures moving through the chaos. Reed, Cross, fighting their way out. We need to go back, Harper said. Park shook his head. Orders are to get the hostages to safety. Reed can handle himself. Park, he gave you an order, Ghost. Follow it. Harper's hands clenched into fists, but she didn't argue. They drove in silence. The hostages were crying, shaking. Some were holding each other. The woman with the gunshot wound leaned against Harper, breathing hard. You're okay, Harper said quietly. You're safe now. The woman didn't respond, just closed her eyes and cried. They reached a safe house 40 minutes later, a nondescript building on the outskirts of Richmond. Park pulled into the garage, killed the engine. We wait here, he said. Reed'll call when he's clear. Harper helped the hostages inside. The safe house was set up like a medical facility. Cots, supplies, everything Harper needed. She went to work immediately, treating wounds, starting IVs, checking vitals. The woman with the gunshot wound needed surgery. The infection had spread. Harper sedated her, prepped the area, and went in. It took an hour, but she got the bullet out, cleaned the wound, closed it up properly. When she finished, the woman was stable. Harper stripped off her gloves and sat down on the floor, exhausted. Vega appeared in the doorway. Reed just checked in. He and Cross are out. They got Victoria. Harper looked up. Alive? Alive, barely, but she's talking. Vega paused. And what she's saying is going to blow this whole thing wide open. Victoria Cross sat in a warehouse in Baltimore, zip-tied to a chair, blood dripping from her nose. She was in her 40s, blonde, with the kind of face that belonged on a magazine cover, except now it was bruised, swollen, and filled with hate. Harper stood across from her, arms crossed, saying nothing. Reed paced behind Victoria, his weapon holstered but visible. Let's try this again. Who else is involved? Victoria spat blood. Go to hell. Already been. Didn't like it. Reed leaned down, his face inches from hers. You're done, Victoria. Your operation's gone. Brennan's dead. The network's collapsing. The only question is whether you die in a federal prison or in a ditch. Your call. Victoria laughed. It sounded wet, broken. You think you've won? You think taking down one compound changes anything? We've got operations in 12 states, connections in 30 countries. Brennan was just one piece, and now that he's gone, someone else will step up. Who? Harper asked. Victoria's eyes locked on her. You. Harper blinked. What? You think you're the hero in this story? You're not. You're the catalyst. The reason everything fell apart. The reason Brennan got sloppy. The reason people started asking questions. Victoria smiled, blood on her teeth. You didn't stop the network. You just pissed them off. And now they're coming for you. And everyone you care about. Reed grabbed Victoria by the collar. Names. Now. Victoria's smile widened. Check your phone, Captain. Reed frowned, pulled out his phone. His face went pale. What? Harper asked. Reed turned the screen toward her. It was a news alert. Breaking story. Federal investigation. St. Sebastian's Memorial Hospital. Harper's blood went cold. The headline read, Corruption at St. Sebastian's federal agents raid hospital linked to trafficking ring. Harper snatched the phone, read the article. It was all there. Brennan's donations, Ashford's involvement, the connections to the trafficking operation, and at the bottom, a quote from an anonymous source. Dr. Harper Cole, formerly known as Captain Gabriel Ghost Hartley, is currently under investigation for her role in the conspiracy. Harper's hands shook. This is a lie. Of course it is, Victoria said. But by the time anyone figures that out, your life will be over, your career, your reputation, everything. She leaned forward. You should have stayed in your lane, Doctor. Reed pulled his weapon, aimed it at Victoria's head. Harper grabbed his arm. Don't! She's a liability. She's evidence. We need her alive to prove what they did. Harper's voice was steel. Killing her makes us just like them. Reed stared at her. Then he lowered the gun. Call Voss. Tell him what we have. And hope to hell he can fix this before it gets worse. Harper made the call. Voss answered on the second ring. Cole? Where are you? That doesn't matter. What matters is you need to turn yourself in. Now. Harper froze. What? The FBI issued a warrant for your arrest an hour ago. Conspiracy. Obstruction. Accessory after the fact. Voss's voice was tight. Controlled. Someone high up is pushing this, and they're using you as the scapegoat. Who? I don't know, but they've got enough circumstantial evidence to bury you. Your connection to Brennan, your unauthorized surgery on Lily, your involvement in the raid that killed him. Voss paused. Harper, you need to come in. Let me help you. I'm not coming in, not until I know who's behind this. Then you're making yourself a fugitive. I've been worse. Harper hung up. Reed was staring at her. What now? Harper looked at Victoria, then back at Reed. Now we find out who's pulling the strings. And we cut them. Victoria laughed again. Good luck with that. You're going up against people who own judges, senators, generals, people who make problems disappear. Harper stepped closer, crouched down so she was eye level with Victoria. Then they're about to learn what happens when you try to make ghosts disappear. Victoria's smile faltered, just for a second. Harper stood, looked at Reed. Get her to Voss. Tell him everything. Names, locations, everything she knows. And you? I'm going back to Ashford Heights. There's someone I need to see. Harper drove through the night, alone. Her phone was off. Her weapon was loaded, and her mind was racing. Someone was framing her, someone with power, someone who wanted her silenced. But who? She ran through the list. Board members at the hospital, federal agents, people connected to Brennan's network. And then it hit her. The only person who'd been there from the beginning, who'd known about Harper's past, who'd had access to everything. Ashford. Harper pulled over, grabbed her phone, turned it on. 53 missed calls, 37 texts, all from numbers she didn't recognize, except one. Ashford. We need to talk. Meet me at the hospital. Midnight. Come alone. Harper stared at the message, sent 4 hours ago. It was a trap, obviously, but it was also the only way to get answers. Harper started the engine. She arrived at St. Sebastian's at 11:47 p.m. The hospital was quiet, too quiet. The parking lot was nearly empty. The lights in the ER were dim. Harper parked in the back, walked in through the staff entrance. Her hand stayed close to her weapon. The hallways were deserted. Harper moved through them like a shadow, silent, controlled. She found Ashford in her office. The door was open. The lights were on. Ashford sat behind her desk, staring at a photo on the wall. She looked older, tired, defeated. You came, Ashford said without turning around. Harper stepped into the office, closed the door. You set me up. Ashford finally looked at her. Her eyes were red, swollen. No, I didn't. Then who did? Ashford stood, walked to the window. Do you know what it's like to build something? To spend your entire career climbing, sacrificing, fighting for a position where you can finally make a difference? And then to have someone offer you everything you've ever wanted, funding, resources, recognition, in exchange for looking the other way. Harper didn't respond. I told myself it was just money, Ashford continued, just donations, that I didn't need to know where it came from, that as long as I used it to save lives, it didn't matter. She turned to face Harper. But it did matter. Because people like Brennan don't give without taking. And what they took, her voice broke. I didn't know, not at first, not until it was too late. Who else is involved? Ashford laughed bitterly. Half the board, 3 senators, a federal judge, and the person who's been feeding them information from the inside. Harper's jaw tightened. Who? Ashford pulled an envelope from her desk, handed it to Harper. Everything's in there, names, accounts, recordings, enough to take down everyone involved. Harper opened the envelope, scanned the documents inside, and stopped. One name jumped out, a name she recognized, Agent Roderick Voss. Harper looked up. Voss? He's been on Brennan's payroll for 3 years, feeding him intel, protecting the operation. And when you started digging, he made sure you were painted as the problem instead of the solution. Ashford's voice was hollow. He's the one who issued the warrant, who leaked your identity, who's been setting you up from the beginning. Harper's blood turned to ice. Why are you telling me this? Because you saved my life, back in that hallway. When Brennan's men came for me. Ashford's eyes filled with tears. And because I'm done running. She pulled a gun from her desk drawer. Harper's hand went to her weapon. Don't! I'm not going to hurt you. Ashford set the gun on the desk. I'm giving you a choice. Take that envelope. Expose them. Finish what you started. Or walk away. Let them win. Harper stared at the gun. Then at Ashford. What about you? Ashford smiled sadly. I made my choice the moment I took Brennan's money. I'll face the consequences. Harper picked up the envelope. You could still... No, I couldn't. Ashford walked to the door, opened it. Go. Before they find you here. Harper hesitated. Then she walked past Ashford into the hallway. Behind her, Ashford closed the door, and Harper heard the sound of a single gunshot. Harper ran back, kicked the door open. Ashford was on the floor, blood pooling beneath her, the gun still in her hand. Harper dropped to her knees, checked for a pulse. Nothing. She sat back, staring at the body of a woman who'd tried to do the right thing too late. Then Harper stood, grabbed the envelope, and walked out. Behind her, alarms started blaring, security rushing toward the office, voices shouting. But Harper was already gone. She drove straight to the Federal Building in downtown Ashford Heights. It was 2 a.m. The building was mostly empty. Harper walked through the front doors like she owned the place, flashed her hospital ID. The guard waved her through. She took the elevator to the 5th floor, Voss's office. The door was locked. Harper picked it in 15 seconds. Old habits. Inside, she found exactly what she was looking for. Files, ledgers, proof. She photographed everything, every page, every transaction, every name. Then she heard footsteps in the hallway. Harper moved to the window. 4th story, no fire escape. The door opened. Voss stood there, weapon drawn. I was wondering when you'd figure it out. Harper turned slowly. Her hands were empty, visible. You sold them out. All of them. For what? Money? Control. Voss stepped into the room. You think people like Brennan get powerful by accident? They get powerful because people like me let them. Because we understand that the world runs on leverage, and leverage requires dirt. So you helped him traffic people. I helped him build a network. What he did with it wasn't my concern. Harper's jaw tightened. And when I started digging, I tried to protect you, gave you an out, but you wouldn't take it. Voss raised his weapon. You're a problem, Cole, always have been, and now I'm going to solve you. Harper didn't move. You think killing me solves anything? I've already sent everything to the FBI, the real FBI, the ones you don't control. Voss frowned. You're bluffing. Harper smiled. It was cold, empty. Am I? For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then Voss lowered his weapon. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Most people are. Voss holstered his gun, walked to the window, looked out at the city below. What happens now? Now you turn yourself in, cooperate, give them everything. And maybe you don't spend the rest of your life in a cell. Voss laughed. It was bitter, defeated. You really think it's that simple? No, but it's your only option. Voss turned to face her. His hand moved to his holster. Harper's weapon was already out. Aimed. Steady. Don't, she said. Voss's hand froze. Then he smiled. You won't shoot me. You're a doctor. You save people. I was a soldier first. Voss's smile faded. Then he lunged. Harper fired. The shot hit Voss in the shoulder. He spun, hit the wall, and collapsed. Harper kept her weapon trained on him, kicked his gun away. Then she called 911. Federal Building, 5th floor. Officer down. Send everyone. She hung up. Voss looked up at her, clutching his shoulder. You just made a lot of enemies. I've had worse. Harper walked out, left Voss bleeding on the floor, and disappeared into the night. By morning, the story had broken. Every major news outlet. Federal agent arrested, corruption scandal, names named. Harper watched it from a motel room in Maryland. Anonymous. Safe. Her phone buzzed. A text from Torres. "Where are you?" Harper didn't respond. Another text. From Reed. "We got them. All of them. Victoria's talking. The network's done. You did it, Ghost." Harper set the phone down. She didn't feel victorious. She felt empty. Ashford was dead. Voss was arrested. Brennan's network was collapsing, but the cost had been high. Harper stood, walked to the bathroom, looked at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman staring back. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. Harper answered. "Yeah. Dr. Cole, this is General Hargrave." Harper straightened. "General? I heard what happened. What you did. The people you saved." Hargrave paused. "I'm calling because there's someone here who wants to speak with you." A new voice came on the line. Female. Young. "Dr. Cole? It's Lily. Lily Voss." Harper's chest tightened. "Lily, how are you?" "Alive because of you. They told me what you did, how you stopped them, how you saved all those people." Lily's voice cracked. "Thank you." Harper closed her eyes. "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do. Because you didn't give up, even when everyone told you to, even when it cost you everything." Lily paused. "You're a hero." Harper opened her eyes, stared at her reflection. "No," she said quietly. "I'm just someone who did what needed to be done." She hung up. And for the first time in 3 years, Harper Cole allowed herself to cry. 3 days later, Harper walked into St. Sebastian's Memorial Hospital. No disguise, no hiding, just her. The ER was busy, controlled chaos, nurses running, doctors shouting orders. Delilah saw her first. Her eyes went wide. "Cole? What are you—" "I'm back." But the investigation cleared. Federal judge reviewed the evidence. All charges dropped. Harper pulled on a pair of gloves. "Where do you need me?" Delilah stared at her, then smiled. "Bay 3, cardiac arrest. We're losing him." Harper ran. She burst into Bay 3. A man in his 60s was on the table, flatlined. 2 residents were doing compressions. A nurse was bagging him. "What's the story?" Harper asked. "Massive MI. We've shocked him 4 times. Nothing's working." Harper moved to the table, checked the monitor, checked his pupils. "Stop compressions." "But—" "Stop?" They stopped. Harper placed her hands on the man's chest, felt for the heartbeat that wasn't there. Then she pressed down, hard, rhythmic, controlled, once, twice. The monitor beeped 3 times. The heart kicked. The man gasped, alive. Harper stepped back. "Get him to the cath lab, now." They wheeled him out. Harper stood alone in Bay 3, breathing hard, her hands shaking just slightly. Then she heard clapping. She turned. Evelyn Marks stood in the doorway. Behind her, a crowd of doctors and nurses, all of them watching. "Welcome back, Ghost," Marks said. Harper looked at them, at the people she'd worked with, the people who'd whispered about her, the people who doubted her, and now they were applauding. Harper didn't know what to say, so she just nodded and got back to work. That night, Harper sat in her apartment. The lights were off. The city glowed outside her window. Her phone buzzed. A text from Reed. "New mission, 3 weeks. Interested?" Harper stared at the message. Then she typed back. "Maybe." She set the phone down, stood, walked to her closet. Inside, hanging next to her hospital scrubs, was her tactical jacket. Black, worn, familiar. Harper touched it, remembering, deciding. Then she closed the closet door and walked away. But the jacket stayed there, waiting, because Ghost never really left. She just took breaks between wars, and somewhere out there another war was already starting. The war found her anyway. Harper was in the middle of suturing a forehead laceration when Torres appeared in the doorway of Bay 5, still wearing his tactical vest under a jacket that didn't quite hide it. "We need to talk," he said. Harper didn't look up. "I'm working. It's about the network. There's one more." Her hand stopped, just for a second. Then she tied off the stitch, snipped the thread, and helped her patient sit up. "You're good," Keep it clean. Come back in 10 days. The man nodded and left. Harper stripped off her gloves. One more what? Torres glanced at the nurses. Not here. They walked to the parking garage. Kim was waiting by a black SUV, arms crossed, looking like she hadn't slept in 3 days. We got intel from Victoria before she was transferred to federal custody, Kim said. There's a final operation, bigger than the compound in Virginia, bigger than anything Brennan ran. Harper leaned against the concrete pillar. Where? Miami. Container shipment coming in tomorrow night. 83 people, most of them kids. Torres pulled out his phone, showed Harper a satellite image. The port, Pier 19. They're being moved through a front company, legitimate import-export business that's been operating for 12 years. Who's running it? Kim and Torres exchanged a look. That's the problem, Kim said. We don't know. Victoria gave us the location, the timing, everything except the person at the top. She said if she told us, she'd be dead before morning. Harper studied the image. The port was massive. Hundreds of containers. Thousands of places to hide. When do we move? We don't, Torres said. Reed's team is handling it. We're just here to give you a heads up in case… In case what? Torres hesitated. In case it goes wrong, and they need a medic who can work under fire. Harper looked at him, then at Kim. When do we leave? Harper, when? Kim sighed. 6 hours, but you don't have to… Yes, I do. She walked away before they could argue. Harper went home, packed a bag. Not the duffel she used for hospital shifts. The other one. The one that held gear she'd told herself she'd never use again. Vest, holster, tactical pants, the knife with her unit insignia. She stared at it for a long time. Then she packed it anyway. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Harper almost didn't answer. Then she thought about Voss, about how many people were still out there who wanted her dead. She answered. Yeah. Dr. Cole, it's General Hargrave. Harper sat down on the edge of her bed. General, how can I help you? I heard about Miami, about the shipment. Hargrave's voice was steady, calm. I'm calling because I know what you're thinking, and I'm telling you, don't. Harper didn't respond. You've already done enough, Hargrave continued. You exposed the network. You brought down Brennan and Voss and everyone involved. You saved lives. You can walk away now. No one would blame you. Would you? Silence. If it was you, Harper said quietly, and you knew there were kids in a container about to disappear forever, would you walk away? Hargrave sighed. No, I wouldn't. Then you know why I can't either. Another pause. Then Hargrave spoke again, his tone different now, harder. Then you go in smart, you go in prepared, and you come back alive. That's an order. Harper almost smiled. I'm not in your unit anymore, General. You'll always be in my unit, Ghost. Now get it done. He hung up. Harper stared at her phone. Then she finished packing. They flew into Miami at midnight. Private plane. No manifest. Reed met them at the hangar with the rest of the team. Vega, Cross, Park, and 2 new faces Harper didn't recognize. This is Martinez and Lou, Reed said, former DEA. They know the port inside out. Martinez was a stocky man in his 40s with a scar across his jaw. Lou was younger, leaner, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Cargo ship arrives at 0200 hours, Reed said, pulling up a map on a tablet. They'll offload the containers to a warehouse here. He pointed. That's where we hit them. Fast extraction. Minimal contact. What about backup? Harper asked. Local PD is compromised. Half of them are on the payroll. FBI's sending a team, but they won't be here until 0400. Reed looked at each of them. Which means we're on our own for 2 hours. We get those people out, we get them to safety, and we disappear before anyone knows we were here. Vega checked her rifle. And if someone tries to stop us? Reed's expression didn't change. Then we stop them first. They moved out at 0130 hours. The port was a sprawl of cranes and containers and shadows. Harper stayed with Reed, moving low and fast through the maze of metal. The warehouse was ahead. Lights on. Trucks parked outside. Park held up a hand. I'm reading 12 hostiles, maybe more inside. Can you cut their comms? Reed asked. Already done. They split into two teams. Reed, Harper, and Cross went through the west entrance. Vega, Kim, and Torres took the east. Martinez and Liu covered the exits. Park stayed back, running overwatch. Harper's heart hammered. Not from fear, from anticipation. This was what she'd been trained for. What Ghost had been made for. They breached. The warehouse was chaos, guards shouting, people running. Harper saw the containers, 6 of them, stacked in the center of the space. And she heard voices. Children's voices. Crying. Reed moved toward the guards. Harper broke left, heading for the containers. A guard stepped into her path. Harper didn't hesitate. She drove her elbow into his throat, grabbed his weapon, and put him down with the butt of his own rifle. She reached the first container. The lock was heavy, industrial. Harper pulled a breaching tool from her vest and snapped it. The door swung open. 20 faces stared back at her. Kids. All of them under 16, scared, starving, some of them injured. "It's okay," Harper said. "I'm getting you out." She moved to the next container, then the next. Each one held more people, more victims. By the time she opened the 6th container, gunfire had erupted behind her. Reed and Cross were engaged with the guards. Vega and Kim were holding the east side. Harper turned to the kids. "Stay low, stay together, follow me." She led them toward the exit, slow, controlled, keeping herself between them and the gunfire. They were halfway there when the explosion hit. The west wall blew inward. Fire and smoke and debris filled the warehouse. Harper hit the ground, covering the nearest kid with her body. When she looked up, armed men were pouring through the breach. Not guards. Something else. Military gear. Professional. "Reed!" Harper shouted into her radio. "We've got reinforcements!" Reed's voice crackled back. "Fall back! Get those kids out now!" Harper grabbed the nearest 2 children. "Run! Go! Go! Go!" They ran. Harper stayed behind them, weapon raised, providing cover. A bullet whizzed past her head. She returned fire, dropped the shooter, kept moving. Kim appeared beside her. "West exit's clear. Move!" They pushed the kids through, out into the night. Martinez and Liu were waiting with vans. "Load them up!" Harper shouted. But not all of them would fit. There were too many. Harper did the math in her head. 2 trips. 3 minutes each. 6 minutes total. They didn't have 6 minutes. "Get as many as you can," Harper told Martinez. "We'll cover the rest." Martinez nodded and hit the gas. The first van peeled out. Harper turned back to the warehouse. 20 kids were still inside, and the gunfire was getting closer. She went back in. Reed saw her coming. "What the hell are you doing?" "Getting the rest." Harper. But she was already running. Back through the smoke, back through the chaos, back to where the kids were huddled against the far wall. "Come on!" Harper grabbed 2 more, pushed them toward the exit. "Move!" Vega was there, covering them, her rifle barking short, controlled bursts. Cross was reloading, his face grim. They got 10 kids out, then 15. 5 left. Harper went back for them. That's when she saw him. A man in a suit, standing in the shadows, watching. He was older, distinguished, the kind of man who belonged in boardrooms, not warehouses. And Harper recognized him, not his face, but his posture, his presence, the way he stood like he owned the world. "You," Harper said. The man smiled. "Dr. Cole. Or should I say, Ghost." Harper raised her weapon. "Who are you?" "Someone who's been watching you for a very long time. Someone who's been waiting to see if you were as good as the stories say." The man stepped forward. "My name is Elias Crane, and I'm the person Brennan answered to." Harper's blood went cold. "You think taking down Brennan changed anything?" Crane continued. "You think exposing Voss destroyed the network? You just cut off a few branches. The tree's still standing, and it's going to outlive you." Harper's finger moved to the trigger. "Not if I kill you right now." Crane laughed. "You could, but my people would be on your team in seconds. And those children you're trying to save, they'd die in the crossfire." He tilted his head. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to let me walk out of here, and I'm going to let those kids live." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Crane raised his hand, snapped his fingers. Red dots appeared on the chests of the 5 remaining children. Snipers. Harper's jaw tightened. You're a coward. I'm a businessman, and business requires leverage. Crane lowered his hand. The dots disappeared. You have 10 seconds to decide, me or them. Harper stared at him. Every instinct screamed to pull the trigger, to end this, to make sure Crane never hurt anyone again. But the kids. She lowered her weapon. Crane smiled. Smart choice. He turned and walked away, disappeared into the smoke. Harper stood there, shaking with rage as Reed appeared beside her. What happened? Reed asked. He got away. Who? The one running everything. Harper's hands clenched into fists. Elias Crane. Reed swore. We'll find him. We'll get the kids out first, Harper said. Then we'll deal with Crane. They got the last 5 children out, loaded them into the second van. By the time the FBI arrived, the warehouse was empty except for bodies and smoke. Harper sat on the hood of the SUV, staring at nothing, as agents swarmed the scene. Kim sat down beside her. Didn't say anything, just sat there. I let him go, Harper said finally. You saved 20 kids. I let a monster walk away. You made a choice, the right one. Kim looked at her. You can't save everyone, Harper. No one can. Harper didn't respond. They flew back to Ashford Heights at dawn. Harper didn't sleep, just stared out the window watching the sun come up. When they landed, Torres handed her a phone. Voss wants to talk to you. Harper took the phone. What? Dr. Cole. Voss's voice was weak, strained. He was still in custody, still recovering from the gunshot wound. I heard what happened in Miami. Did you call to gloat? I called to warn you. Elias Crane is not someone you can beat. He has resources you can't imagine. Protection at every level. If you go after him, you'll lose. I've lost before. Not like this. Voss paused. Walk away, Harper. While you still can. Harper hung up. She handed the phone back to Torres. I need a favor. Name it. I need everything you can find on Elias Crane. Bank records, property holdings, known associates, everything. Torres nodded. I'll get Park on it. And Torres, keep this quiet. No FBI, no DOD, no one. Torres frowned. You're going after him alone? If I have to, that's suicide. Then I'll die doing something that matters. She walked away before he could argue. Harper spent the next week working at the hospital. Normal shifts, normal patients, pretending everything was fine. But at night, she studied. Park sent her files, data, patterns, and slowly, a picture emerged. Elias Crane owned half of Miami. Real estate, shipping companies, legitimate businesses that served as fronts for moving people and goods across borders. He had connections in 30 countries, assets in the billions, and he was untouchable. Harper stared at the files spread across her kitchen table, looking for a weakness, an opening, anything. Then she found it. A transaction, 6 months ago, a property purchase in the Cayman Islands. Not under Crane's name, under a shell company. But the signature on the deed was his, and the property was a private estate. Remote, isolated. Harper called Reed. I know where Crane is. 3 days later, Harper stood on a boat 30 miles off the coast of Grand Cayman, staring at an island in the distance. Reed stood beside her. You sure about this? No. Good. Certainty gets you killed. Vega and Cross were checking equipment. Kim was going over the entry plan. Park was running satellite surveillance from a laptop. We go in at midnight, Reed said. Crane's got private security. Maybe 10, maybe 20. We neutralize them, we grab Crane, and we get him to international authorities before his lawyers can intervene. And if we can't? Harper asked. Reed met her eyes. Then we make sure he never hurts anyone again. Harper nodded. They launched at 2300 hours. Silent approach. No lights. The island appeared out of the darkness like a ghost. They reached the shore. Moved inland. The estate was massive. Mansion, guest houses, security everywhere. Park's voice crackled over the radio. I'm counting 15 hostiles. Crane's in the main house, second floor, northeast corner. Copy, Reed said. Harper, you're with me. Everyone else, secure the perimeter. Harper followed Reed through the gardens, past guards who never saw them coming, up the side of the mansion, through a window on the second floor. They moved through the halls, silent, deadly. Crane's room was at the end of the hallway. The door was unlocked. They went in. Crane sat at a desk, reading a book, like he'd been expecting them. "Dr. Cole," he said without looking up. "Right on time." Reed raised his weapon. "Hands where I can see them." Crane set down the book, raised his hands. "You know this won't work. My lawyers will have me out in hours, and then I'll disappear. Somewhere you'll never find me." "Not if you're in custody," Reed said. "There is no custody that can hold me." Crane stood, smiled. "You've lost, Dr. Cole. You just don't know it yet." Harper stepped forward. "I didn't come here to arrest you." Reed frowned. "Harper, I came here to make you an offer." Crane's smile widened. "I'm listening." Harper pulled out a folder, tossed it on the desk. "That's everything. Every transaction, every property, every shell company, every person on your payroll. I've sent copies to 50 journalists across 30 countries, time-stamped, encrypted. If anything happens to me or anyone I care about, those files go public." Crane's smile faded. He opened the folder, flipped through the pages. His face went pale. "This is your entire operation," Harper said, "and now it's mine. You try to hurt anyone else, I burn it all down. You disappear, I find you. You think you're untouchable. Try me." Crane stared at her. For the first time, Harper saw fear in his eyes. "You can't." "I already did." Harper leaned forward. "You called me Ghost. So let me tell you what ghosts do. We haunt. We don't forget. And we sure as hell don't forgive. You're done, Crane. Your network's done. And if you ever come after me or mine again, I'll make sure the whole world knows exactly who you are." Crane sat down slowly, looked at the folder, then at Harper. "What do you want?" "I want you to turn yourself in, confess everything, testify against everyone involved, give up every name, every location, every operation." Harper's voice was ice. "And then I want you to spend the rest of your life in a cell, knowing that you lost to a woman you tried to bury." Crane's hands shook. "And if I refuse?" Harper smiled. It was empty, cold. "Then those files go public tonight. And by morning, you'll have targets on your back from every government, cartel, and crime syndicate you've ever crossed. You'll be lucky to last a week." Crane stared at her. Then he laughed. It was broken, defeated. "You really are Ghost?" "No," Harper said quietly. "I'm something worse. I'm someone who has nothing left to lose." Reed stepped forward. "Time to go, Crane." They walked him out, handed him over to federal agents waiting on the shore. And by sunrise, Elias Crane was in custody, singing, giving up names, locations, everything. The network collapsed in 72 hours. Arrests across 12 states. Raids on properties in 20 countries. Victims rescued. Operations shut down. And at the center of it all, the woman who'd started it by refusing to look away. Harper returned to Ashford Heights 3 days later. She walked into St. Sebastian's Memorial Hospital expecting nothing. Instead, she found the entire staff waiting in the ER. Doctors, nurses, techs, all of them standing, watching. Delilah stepped forward. "We heard what you did, what you've been doing." She paused. "We wanted you to know. We're proud of you." Then they applauded. Harper stood there stunned as the applause grew louder. People were smiling, some were crying. And Harper realized something. She wasn't invisible anymore. And maybe that was okay. Evelyn Marks appeared beside her. "The board met this morning. They want to offer you the position of Chief of Trauma." Harper blinked. "What?" "You heard me. Full autonomy. Your own unit. The resources to build something real." Marks smiled. "You've earned it." Harper looked around. At the faces. The people. The place she'd tried so hard to disappear into. "I need to think about it," Harper said. "Take your time, but not too much. We need you." Harper nodded. Then she walked to the locker room, changed into scrubs, and went to work. Because that's what she did. That's who she was. Not Ghost, not Harper. Both. 2 weeks later, Harper stood on the roof of the hospital, staring out at the city. The sun was setting, the sky was on fire. Her phone buzzed. A text from Reed. New mission, 2 months, Congo. Medical aid for a refugee camp. Could use someone with your skills. Interested? Harper stared at the message. Thought about the offer from the board. About the life she could build here. Safe, stable, normal. Then she thought about the kids in Miami, the hostages in Virginia, the people who needed someone to fight for them when no one else would. She typed back, "Send me the details." Another text came through, from General Hargrave. "Heard you're considering Reed's offer. Just remember, you don't have to save the world, Ghost. You've already done more than enough." Harper smiled, typed back, "Someone once told me that heroes always say they're just doing their job. I guess that makes me a hero." Hargrave's response was immediate. It always did. Harper put her phone away, stared at the city one more time, then she went back inside. Back to the ER. Back to the chaos. Back to the work. Because Harper Cole had learned something in the last 4 months. Something that Ghost had always known, but Harper had forgotten. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be seen to make a difference. You just need to show up, do the work, and refuse to quit when everyone tells you to. The woman they'd called weak had torn down an empire with nothing but determination and a refusal to look away. The woman they'd dismissed had saved more lives than they'd ever know. The woman they'd tried to bury had risen from the ashes and reminded them all what real strength looked like. It didn't scream. It didn't demand attention. It didn't need applause. It just endured. And in the end, that was more dangerous than any weapon. Harper Cole was back. Ghost was back. And together, they were unstoppable. Not because they were perfect, not because they were fearless, but because they were someone who refused to let injustice win, and that made all the difference. Months later, Harper stood in her new office. Chief of Trauma. The nameplate on the door still looked strange, foreign, like it belonged to someone else. But it was hers. The door opened. Lily Voss stepped in. She looked healthy, strong, the kind of strength that came from surviving something that should have killed you. "Dr. Cole, I heard you took the job." Harper nodded. "Seemed like the right move." "I'm glad," Lily smiled. "I'm starting college in the fall, pre-med. I want to do what you do. Help people who can't help themselves." Harper looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something she recognized. Fire. "You'll be good at it," Harper said. "I hope so." Lily paused. "I wanted to thank you, one more time, for everything, for not giving up, for fighting when no one else would, for showing me that one person really can make a difference." Harper's throat tightened. "You don't need to thank me, Lily. You survived. You testified. You helped bring down an entire network. That's all you." "No," Lily said quietly. "That's us. You showed me how. Now I'm going to show someone else." She walked out. And Harper sat down in her new chair, staring at the empty doorway, realizing something profound. She wasn't just saving lives anymore. She was creating a legacy, a chain, a movement, one person at a time, one life at a time, one moment at a time. That was the real power, not the headlines, not the accolades, not the recognition, but the quiet knowledge that somewhere out there, someone was fighting because you showed them how. Harper pulled out her phone, looked at Reed's message again, the one about Congo. Then she made a decision. She'd take the job here, build the trauma unit, train the next generation, show them what it meant to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. And in between, when the hospital was quiet and the world needed Ghost, she'd answer the call. Because some people were built for one life or the other. Harper Cole was built for both. The doctor who healed, the soldier who fought, the ghost who haunted the nightmares of anyone who thought they could hurt the innocent and get away with it. She was all of them. And she was done apologizing for it. Harper Cole stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city she'd sworn to protect, and smiled. Because the woman they'd tried to break had become unbreakable. The woman they'd tried to silence had found her voice, and the woman they'd underestimated had just rewritten the rules. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of something bigger, and anyone foolish enough to stand in her way would learn what Ghost had always known. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. And when you finally break it, the world listens. Harper Cole was done being quiet, but she'd never stop being dangerous. And that combination, compassion and lethality, healing and fighting, mercy and justice, that was the most powerful weapon of all, the kind that changed the world. One life at a time, starting now, starting here, starting with a woman who refused to be anything less than exactly who she was meant to be: a doctor, a soldier, a protector, a force, and above all, someone who understood that true strength wasn't about never falling down. It was about getting back up, every single time. No matter how hard they hit you, no matter how many times they tried to break you, you rose, you fought, you won. Not because you were perfect, but because you refused to quit. And that refusal, that stubborn, relentless, unshakable refusal to give up, that was the thing that separated heroes from everyone else. Harper Cole had spent 3 years running from Ghost. Now she'd finally learned the truth. Ghost wasn't something to run from. It was something to embrace. Because Ghost was this part of her that had survived when survival seemed impossible. The part that had fought when fighting seemed futile. The part that had saved lives when death seemed certain. And now, standing in her office, wearing her white coat, carrying the weight of everyone she'd saved and everyone she'd lost, Harper Cole understood. She wasn't running anymore. She was home, and she was ready for whatever came next.